A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My unconditional apologies due to some technical snag, we were not able to connect. But all that starts well is well. Although we are late, but God is great. Tomorrow we have the AT test, and therefore we thought it fit to have a program today in which all of you could be enlightened and put at rest all the doubts that may have crammed in your mind till now. I have with me Mr. Sirish Deshpande and Dr. Saurabh, both of the learned speakers of the day, and we will be discussing all intricacies related to ISA 3.0. Ladies and gentlemen, technology in itself is a great enabler. Knowing technology, understanding technology, and more importantly, using technology for audit is something that will change the entire landscape of this profession. And therefore, we are keen. I would like to tell you that the entire world looks upon as to Indian Chartered Accountants for leadership. To give an instance, the Reserve Bank of India wants the Institute of Chartered Accountants to regulate system audits, even if they're done by advocates, even if they're done by engineers or company secretaries. They want us to be the regulators of the entire system audit space, cyber security space. So, ladies and gentlemen, your institute, particularly Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, is spearheading to create new avenues and ventures for chartered accountants. I would like to crack a good news to you. From 1st July 2023, the forensic standards have been made mandatory. You can go to the site and have the copy of the updated forensic accounting investigative standards, and in a day or two, you will have the entire implementation guide. How to implement forensic standards. So we have brought before you in the entire gamut of knowledge that could ultimately change your life, put you at a parlous where you start understanding things, appreciating things. So I will not stand between you and the learned faculty. Over to Mr. Sirish Deshpande, who will take this session. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nanda sir, and I am privileged that you always promote all the people for their right type of support to your DISA course, and your initiative having every week something new for the chartered accountants is a great initiative of IT team, and I appreciate the all ICA staff. And I will start. Allow me to share the screen, and I will start, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Please do that. Please do that.
Sir, just request, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, very much. Please go ahead.
Are you able to listen to me?
Very much. Please go ahead, Mr. Deshpande. Everything is in the right order.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for the chartered accountants joining this last evening. I know that time is very short, but myself and Saurabhji and our institute has endeavored to tell you some of the tricks, some of the ideas, some of the concept, and some of the question answer tracking methodologies during next 3 hours. I'm sure you will take a lot of things today for the tomorrow's exam, and all the best. So this is, I will not waste much of the time since we have lost some of the time, initial time for the technical issues, and I will directly move to some of the things. These are the common disclaimers. Even I will not go into much detail, but remember, wherever there is a specific trademark, copyright related to certain information, we are respecting that. And this is my, as a presenter, this is my view. This may not be necessary the institute's view. This is my brief, but I will just briefly tell you. I am in system audit last 20 years, 25 years, 10 years. I was working with Citibank New York as a treasury control specialist, FCA, as ISA, and founder of the ISACA Pune chapter. That is the sufficient introduction. I am actually doing the information system audit last 20 years. So what is today? For today, myself and Saurabhji has divided the entire ISA course like 6 domains. First 1, 2, 3 I will be covering, and next 4, 5, 6 Saurabhji is covering. And what we are going to do today, I am going to tell you the brief overview of the domain. Then I will be covering some sample questions, how to crack those questions, how to read those questions, and within given time, how to come in 4 hours, all 200 questions to be attempted. Remember, many of the chartered accountants who appeared for the DISA examination have informed later on that they were not able to complete. And I want you to tell just now that we will be telling you that how to complete entire question paper within given time. We are going to select, I am also going to select some of the sample concepts of 1 to 3, considering the time limits. We will not be able to cover entire syllabus, but definitely some important topics. Definitely, I am requesting you that on the exam day, what is to be done, that I am going to explain to you. Then I am requesting today that if you have any question, type in the chat box. There is a moderator, Gautami madam. She is accumulating all the questions. At end of my sessions, I will give 10 minutes to explain to your questions, and Saurabhji will give 10 minutes to his questions. So now, friends, first, remember case studies. Each question is actually case study. Remember, each question is a case study. Question can be a complex, simple, mid-size. So many things will be included in the one question, or only one thing will be included. What is our relation to that question? I'm going to repeat again and again. 4 hours, 200 questions. My relation to that question is 72 seconds. 1.2, carry the watch like this. 1.2, 72 seconds, go to the next. By that method, you will be able to solve all the questions. I did not explain, you already passed the ET exam. You know the flavor of the exam, and I congratulate you. The ET is also a tough exam, but there the questions were only 120. Here the questions will be 200. This is a common 4 option. Very good news is no negative marking. So if you miss correct answer, don't worry, because no negative marking. Go ahead and you are allowed to get a 40% mistakes. You need only 120 correct answers. So don't worry about some wrong question, so wrong mistake, but you should go ahead, complete the thing. Next point I want to tell you that what we are going to cover is my modules 1, 2, 3, which I'm covering. Generally, first module is about the audit process. So whatever you are doing as a chartered accountant, financial audits, some of the basic conceptual understanding of the process is same. Only here is something related computer controls. But basic report writing, planning, everything from your practice experience, whatever work experience during articleship, even that will be helpful for the exam. Because you don't think that what question I read yesterday, whether this is the same thing. Don't go about it. See case, see the question, go to the answer. Second module, which is there for the review, is management of IT. See, remember, managing IT is a very special function. And important point in this module is, this domain is, that right type of people is required to at right place. And most important thing, concepts, which we are going to explain in the following slides. But generally, this domain means organizing entire IT department. The third is a system development life cycle, means how the programs are developed, how the applications are developed, and how systematically that required to be done. And I'm going to share with you some of the case study for that, for your understanding. Now, what is information system audit process? Basically, controls. Controls. Either internal control, computer control, IT control, general IT control, everywhere. What is expected? That whether those controls are designed by the clients and whether those controls are actually working properly. So here I have given you some of the examples. Like, what is preventive? Means somebody stopping and identifying that something wrong should not be happening. And best example is firewall. I'm sure you will be learning in module 4 about the firewall, but briefly I will tell you the firewall sits between your computer system and internet. And firewall is required to be set, what is allowed inside, what is allowed to go outside. So that firewall, how it is configured, that is a combination of hardware and software, certain system tools, and that controls entire traffic which come inside the machine to your organization. Second levels of controls are detective controls. Detective controls means whatever has happened, if something has happened wrong, that will come out for the audit verification. An example is the audit trail. Audit trail is actually detective because audit trail is telling who has done, why he has done, what was the original value, what is the change value. Third type of controls are corrective controls. Corrective controls means what? If something goes wrong, for example, take an example of the backup. So if my computer system crashed, if I have enough backup, I can reload that and correct what has stopped and start from there. So that is called corrective controls. Another important concept you must understand from the exam point is threat and vulnerability. Threat means something unpleasant happening to the computer system. And vulnerability means a weakness in the system. And this combination of the both is a dangerous. Threat itself is not dangerous. But vulnerability, when it gets hacked hand in hand with vulnerability, then that becomes a problem. And I'm going to explain to you how this threat and vulnerability are required to be very important from the examination point of view, from the risk management. I'm going to cover that in the following slide. Next is, this is a summary of the module 1. What is that summary? Whatever audit is there in system audit, remember system audit is not like a financial audit. This audit is required to be completed within given time span. This does not go years and years and years, like months and months. No, the time period is fixed, dates are fixed, and you require to get yourself and technical team to plan day by day, because the technical team, technical expertise with you, very costly. And from that point of view, the system audits, which is a new in India, though it is established, doing it appropriately, you must plan. You must plan, because this is not at all a financial audit that what comes in and what statutory requirements are, you are confirming again those statements as true and fair view. Here in computer system, so many software, so many hardware, so many technological changes are happening. So in given circumstances, in given time, you require to plan before you start. So basically, understanding of the client's environment is very much essential to start with. Then next is in any assessment, first you have to do the risk assessment, or client should have done the risk assessment and you will be reviewing that risk assessment. What is the risk assessment? That whether the IT system has undergone the risk assessment process, whether the important assets, high value assets have been identified here, not a traditional assets of the land, building, plant and machinery, but all digital assets, including hardware, software, humans, documentation. All that risk assessment is required to be done to ensure that no vulnerability is likely to happen by planning the controls. Second level of the audit phase is the execute. Here, you don't require to do 100% each and everything, but whatever is summarized, you do apply your analytical skill, use the CAT tools and work on it. Then last is writing a report. Writing a report is a very crucial point, from the point that what you are going to write, you have to write in proper format. We are not going here in more detail, only we are having a very quick overview of that domain. Now, these regulation and standards from the exam point of view are very important to understand. Now, Information Technology Act is going to change drastically in the coming years, coming days, and definitely certain legal provisions are required to be kept in mind from the exam point of view. Sarbanes-Oxley Act was passed in America to control frauds and internal controls in the organization. So remember, these regulations which are listed here are very important from the exam point of view. Public Company Accounting Overseas Board, this is an authority in US. If any of the client is having US establishment, then those audits are governed by this. Listing obligations and disclosure requirement, ISO family. ISO family has a standard, and according to that, the security planning is being done by the client. Why this is listed here? You should be aware that sometimes some reference will come of this regulation. Remember, in detail, it is not expected from the exam that particular section is by heart. But because of this regulation, certain formalities are required to be completed by the respected people. Then second module is here. I'm going to show you very quickly the risk template, which is there in our study material. This is fantastic template, which has been developed by one of the faculty. And this template is amazing. See, here everything has been listed. That type of assets. Take an example that what is a business process, what is asset, whether that is high, and what is a threat, what is a threat source, what is a vulnerability, what is the incidence, and what are the controls, probability likely to happen, and then whether the controls have been built. When the risk suggested controls are planned, then the risk has been reduced to the tremendous extent. This is just briefly, it is not possible here to explain, but remember this template, if you go through at night, you will understand each type of threat because they have given the list of the threat. This is basically for your understanding what is a threat, what is a vulnerability. For example, in the module 2, this exercise is given in the lab manual, and this has listed all threats, all threat sources, and then all vulnerabilities, what can go wrong. So this is very important from the exam point of view. Just briefly, we are covering, we are not likely to go into more detail. Again, in COVID, how the second module, like organization system, is required to work. This basic chart you require to remember that everything in the organization is going through all these processes. What is process? What is organization structure? Organization structure means it must have the right person at right place. Policies must have been written. So wherever there is a question related to policy, remember advanced policies help to conduct day-to-day operations of the any organization in systematic way. Most important part is information, data that is required to be secure. Remember from our normal sense that data is the most important part in coming life, in coming days to be covered here. Now, third module is system development lifecycle. Here I'm going to explain you very briefly a small example. A Delhi Vidyut Board hired young IT graduate to develop the system. He developed the system started working, and the Delhi Vidyut Board's recovery schedule was brought down to 7 days from 60 days because automatic billing started. But since that person developed the system, implemented the system, and operated the system, and everybody was happy, the bills started coming very fast. But while developing that system, he used salami technique. Salami technique is slicing of the amount. Means, for example, if bill amount is 891 rupees 90 paise, he used to slice off 1 rupee from that. And that 1 rupee was reduced from revenue and credited to his one vendor account. And from that, he got 4 crores rupees within 5 months. Because money went, auditor find out, and then it came to notice that system development life cycle was not followed at all. No testing of the system was done at all. And because of that, this mistake, this crime left there. But definitely when it was found, Delhi High Court punished that person, money was recovered, but Delhi High Court also warned management that they did not have this system development life cycle. What is system development life cycle? Need to understand carefully. Always there are 4 or 5 questions on this system development life cycle. If any new thing is to be developed, feasibility study. What is feasibility study? How the system can help organization, and what are the chapters, what are the matters are required to be considered, how the models will be developed, and whether that is really going to help cost benefit analysis. Then when system is developed new, then old system gap analysis is prepared. What are the problems? And whether this feasibility study address that gap, that is also required to be seen. Then next level is what is required. Means the requirement of the development of system. Why? Who has problems? Who has developed that? So those are requirements are required to be considered while developing the system. The system analysis, business analysis people, system analysis people are the specialists. They are bridging the gap between the developers and the business. They understand what business says. They know what to tell to programmer, because programmer directly do not understand any business domains. And from that point, the system analysis people are very important. Then actually programmer design the system. Architecture people of the team, they develop prototype model. Then actual programmer develop the program. Then testing happens. This testing was absent in the Delhi Vidyut Board. Otherwise, if the user acceptance testing, which is the most important test, there are two types of testing. One is system testing. When the system is developed, the technical tools are there to verify whether every program is correct. And user acceptance test is there, whether the business functions are correctly carried. When this both sides of happens, then system is actually implemented, and then subsequently it is maintained. I know there is some time issues in initial time, so there is a little bit hurry, but we will move to a very important part. These are the application controls. I'm sure you all know all these, but remember carefully, there will be always be questions on this. Testing, whether you know this. And from that point, these application controls are very important to remember. Now, very important part is now starting, that here we will be seeing that how our mind and our wisdom is required to be aligned. How you will be aligning that? That you will be aligning just now onwards. Till tomorrow, exam is finished. Till 1 o'clock tomorrow. You have to manage this mind. Because Acharya Rajneesh Osho says that our mind is like gutter. Gutter means it flows what is convenient for us. Wisdom, our wisdom is there, whether a right of thing. So that balance is required to do now onwards for the exam. I'm telling you from the exam that if I say I am good, I am going to do it, I'm going to kill this tiger, when we are prepared to kill the tiger, then actual it may be bakri. So definitely we have to prepare from the positive mind that I am going to conquer this exam. And if this positive thought comes that I'm going to work now onwards till the exam, difference can happen. Keep aside the negativity. I know the exam is tough. You may not have got sufficient time. You got only today. Some people might have got only one day tomorrow. Don't worry. Whatever is not there, keep aside. Write down on that paper that, oh, this is not there. Okay, write down. Keep that paper under the table and start today. What is there? What I can do the best. Then you have to train your mind that I have to see what is asked. Clarity. What is asked? Once I tell my mind that I have to see from here what is asked. You are a chartered accountant. You have passed the difficult examination of the chartered accountant. You are capable to do it. The technology, don't worry that all technology questions are not going to come here. Only 25% technological questions will be there. 25% will be practice and process. 25% will be domain and 25% general. So you have ample scope to apply your mind, get the clarity. Always remember, if one question is over, go to the next. Next. Don't linger here and there for the previous questions. That is one of the technique. Now, see, when we passed the chartered accountant, when I passed chartered accountant, I was not knowing anything of the bank finance, not knowing anything of the income tax. How I did? I did later on. Here also, in this DSA, don't worry about the future. Here, examiner knows, institute knows that you have not done any system audit, for example. You have learned in the 18 days class. So this is theoretical exam. Yes, theoretical exam. Don't worry about it. But your auditing domain is there. Your reporting domain is there. Your general understanding knowledge is there. You are a techno-savvy. You are reading everything. You are doing the auditing in the computer system. Use all that knowledge for the exam. Be sincere. Like chartered accountant, now today, next 24 hours, I have to be sincere about the exam. Do not think about the failure. Consider you are passed, DISA, because that small negativity is going to drag your energy. And I don't want you to drag your energy in the next 12 hours or 13 hours or 15 hours. Always in all questions, two options given are irrelevant. And try to do that, eliminate those two. And it is very easy for us to choose one of them. Because instead of concentrating on 4 options, I will be concentrating only on 2. Then how I will be selecting correct options. See now, I'm going to share with you this answer of some of the questions. Some of the students asked me that what you are going to do today. I am going to tell you some of the recipes of these 4 hours and this 10 hours before these 4 hours. What is required? Now, some of the questions you have to use the common sense. It is not a technology at all. If you think like that, you will be able to give correct answer to this. Now, we'll see the next. See, what is the important? Support 24/7 availability. I have backup, but whether it will be available instant, because when mirroring is there, backup is happening instantly. It's when computer systems are on, immediately orders are recorded. So I am saying 24/7 availability. So only daily backup is not sufficient. Offsite storage and periodic testing are out. And there will be a fight between daily backup and mirroring. Daily backup is important, but which is far better? Mirroring. In mirroring, the backup do not stop for the day end. It is constantly happening into 2 machines. If I enter this, for example, when I was in New York, before I reached New York, there was a terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, and Citibank was having office in that. So that at 9:40, everything gone. But within 1 hour, from our mirroring site from New Jersey, bank started operations. No people were there, no machines were there, no building was there. But how they could? Because exactly at 9:39, whatever transactions happen in New York, because even though it is a New York, other places of the world were operating that time, daytime. So everything could be recorded because of the mirroring. So these are some of the concepts covered in one of the question for your understanding. Now, next type of thing is know the subject. You should understand the subject. Now, time is short, but definitely you can understand the subject like this is development. It is a software development. That is a related question. So what happens? Your mind start thinking about that. Now, it is this in this question, what is asked and what is the answer, I'm going to share with you immediately because I don't want you to waste time. They have asked integrity. Integrity means exactly what is supposed to be. Whatever I am expecting, and that can come out of 4 from the version control. Version control and configuration management, these 2 parts are there. Change management and none of the above are out. And configuration management is configuring the computer system with the hardware. So definitely version control is the right answer. So identifying what is asked in the question is marked in the red, and eliminating 2 options and giving correct answer is this one of the solution. Now, next is again know your subject. Now this is question from the module 1. The question which was covered just now was the module 3 from the system development. This is about the CAT tools. What should IS auditor do first when CAT is used? And when a question is asked, CAT tools, it should come everything. CAT is selecting a sample, analyzing that sample for particular thing, and organization, for example, is a bank, large volume is there, and we are supposed to use the CAT. Now see what is the key question. The key word do first. And here answer A is correct because see performance survey audit of logical access, that will happen subsequently. Revise the audit plan to focus on risk-based audit. Yes, that is going to happen. Begin testing controls that IS auditor feels most. Yes, that is there. But what we will do first? Either the client has performed IT assessment, IT risk assessment, because that will tell you that which areas are weak, which areas I am required to take concentration, which areas I should be taking more testing, more controls like that. And from that point, remember from the question, you are allowed to underwrite by the pencil that what is the keyword, and you can write keyword is do first and then go to the next. Again, we will come to directly answer. What would be the greatest concern from a segregation of duties point? SOD. Segregation of duty is the key understanding concept from the exam point of view. Always there are 4 or 5 questions from the exam point of view. If two roles are conflicting with each other performance, then that is a segregation of duties conflict. Here, application programmers are required to obtain approval only from the DBA for direct write access to data. This attempt itself is very dangerous, because why? If application program obtain approval from business owners before accessing data, DBAs are only custodians. And if he is taking DBA, that will be the problem. That is the greatest concern, because they will change anything. And that direct access change is not supposed to be given to the DBA, because DBA are managing the database. Business should approve. Otherwise, if something they make change, for example, take an example, bank. In bank balances in my account, if the database administrator at backside change my balance to 1 lakh to 5 lakhs rupees, I'm able to withdraw. But if that change comes to the business will say, why you are changing? If he says, no, sir, 4 lakhs rupees are lying in suspense and that has not gone there, then business will tell why you are directly correcting that. Make the JV in the system. Let it appear that suspense account is credited and customer's account is credited and the suspense account is debited. So they can't do that directly from there. So that is a greatest concern. Try to understand. Now, a global approach. Remember, what happens, take an example here, that IT facilities having 100 crore investment caught on fire. Disaster management team wanted to order Halon gas to control the fire. There are 2 employees stuck inside the IT department. What disaster team should do? Start Halon operations to save 100 crore facility. Wait till everyone is evacuated. Start operations after 5 minutes. Call fire brigade. I'm sure you will be coming to the conclusion. Now, Halon gas is very important to understand. Halon gas removes oxygen from the air. So if Halon gas is fire, that removes oxygen from air, because if fire want to spread, it requires oxygen. If oxygen is not there, fire is killed at the spot. But if this Halon gas is fire, and when humans are there in computers department, they will suffocate because non-availability of oxygen and they will die. So right answer is globally, wait till everyone is evacuated. But what will happen? In India, abundant population is there. So what will think? यार 100 crore के सामने एक आदमी मर गया है तो क्या जाता है, जाने दो. Start operations immediately. Start Halon. That may be confusing. So always remember, global answer is correct answer. Then next is direct backend database correction by DBA poses which of the following risks? Which is the greatest? Remember, misappropriation of the DBA cannot be ruled out. Sometime back, I explained that in the account, if something is changed, some new bogus account is created. See, this is happening backside. What is backside? Okay, here you need to understand very carefully. Computer systems are developed in such a way that those are controlled through the appropriate accesses by the particular types of users. The technical team which is managing the system, they do require certain types of access if some mistake happens to help to the users. Sometimes if system is completely locked, completely hanged, you cannot open the screen. In that emergency situation, there is a backdoor entries. Backdoor entries means there are certain specific rights are given to certain technical people. So they can start DOS command, and from DOS command, they can enter the system and they can start operation. But this is required to be given in controlled process. Process is well written and temporarily that access is given, and then every system is started again, that access is removed, that is documented, what that person has done, supervised there. In normal circumstances, it is not at all allowed. Somebody changing directly database and backend. Now, here, which of the following procedures would an IS auditor not perform during pre-audit planning to gain an understanding of the overall environment under the review? Tour key organization has activities, interview key members of the management, perform compliance tests to determine if regulatory requirements are met, review prior audit report. Now I am sitting at pre-audit plan. Here, what I am going to suppose, for example, tour key organizations activity, yes, you can do. Interview key members, you can do. Review prior audit, you can do. But you can't start testing because you are not planned. So definitely C is the answer. We see now here the C is correct answer. And what are the keywords here? Not perform. Pre-audit planning. Here, our traditional knowledge should help us that not to do certain activities, and very important, pre-audit planning, which sometime back I mentioned to you. Now, testing. Here, subject, you must know what is the testing. Stress testing, functional testing, structural testing, performance testing. Now, here, which of the following testing will be done to check putting limit on the hard disks? Very, very intelligent question. They are asking hard disk capacity के ऊपर limit डाल रहे हैं, तो which testing will help ensure that limit is not there? So see now, limit on the hard disk. So systems space, how much data they can take, how much entries they can post, that will be identified by stress testing. What functional testing is doing? Functional testing is to check the function. For example, I want to check the interest calculation. So what I will do? I will go to the interest module and check the functional testing. That is called a functional testing. Structural testing, I will be visiting the facilities. I will be seeing whether the IT infrastructure is correct. So that will be not related to at all hard disk. Definitely not hard disk, whether wiring is correct and everything is correct. Performance testing, whether the system is slow, whether it is going through all the modules unnecessary, it is taking time to switch on. So that will come under the performance. Now, this is very interesting concept. Which is the greatest concern for the interviewer, for an audit auditor, while reviewing the proposed new interface for the pathology system? Pathology system is there, and system generated text files are uploaded in the central server. Health information system is decentralized system resulting in various interface problem. The system is based on the outdated client server technology. Users do not have access to the folder. So C and D are out, and there is a fight between A and B. So A, system generated text files are uploaded in the central. This can be greatest concern because if some mistake is there, interface means what? There are two systems and the data picked up from the one of the system and uploaded to another system. Sir, is there any problem? I see some flash. I hope that everybody can see my screen. Okay, now there is a risk that all text files may not be uploaded. And that's why that is the greatest concern. Remember, in audit methodologies, whenever we audit any large organization, and if one of the system is based on another platform and data is picked from there and uploaded in this, for example, NPA model. NPA model is independent, that takes data from Pinnacle, that takes the customer information from CRM, and that is uploaded in NPA. Now, if the 100% entire correct interface is not uploading entire thing, that NPA calculation will be wrong. So that will be the test. When long questions are there, read last line and then go to the first line. That is a simple solution. Now, try answer in your mind. And I suggest that when you see the question, I will suggest you to cover the answer. and read only question. So answer will come your in mind, and then open up the scale and you will see the options. Follow the method of elimination we have talked. Read all the, even though you know the question answer, there may be a trick that some new option has been inserted, which was not there when you practice that. So reading all 4 options is very much essential before coming to the conclusion. Many times when we read a question, immediately answer come to our mind. We select one option, stick to that. 99% what answer comes in your mind as a first, that is a correct answer. Now, method of elimination, this question I'm going to tell you with unexpected and sudden changes. In nowadays, agile methodology is an open methodology that is adopting any change in the process. So agile is the correct answer. Agile is generally accepted, very common, ready to shift, ready to change, not very hard on the development process. That is called agile. Now, I'm sure this is a very easy answer for you. Which of the following is the best? And if you see Satish 1, 2, 3, 4, very easy. CA, ICA, okay, little bit okay. Password at 1, 2, 3, very easy. Now last one is a very complex password, and that is a very good. That correct answer is that. Now we are coming to very important part of today's session. This is a general chart of the IT. Everyone must know how it works, how the computer system works. I will suggest you take the photograph in the camera, that how the computer systems are usually in the large organization. Yes, Nidhi madam, anything? Any problem? Nidhi madam, any problem? Okay. Now we are starting very important part, last 25 minutes. On exam day tomorrow, what you are supposed to do? I'm sure you know the location. If you don't know location, just now search on the map, because you should not waste time tomorrow searching of the location where the exam is. Always remember, it is very important that you should know where you are going, because last minute you Uber, Auto, rains, so many issues are there. So knowing location today, it is better that today you search on the net, find out from the friends, make the arrangement for tomorrow for going, for dropping. For after the exam is over, no need of any support, but at least for going this. Carry some identification, whatever is Aadhaar card, institute's card, or any card, so that the examiner can verify that. That is very important for carrying with you. Next is, I recommend not to read entire question paper. Many students have told me from their, I am teaching for DISA since beginning, and maybe more than 10,000 students I have trained for the module 1 and 2 and whatever models I was teaching. Many students after the exam told me that some of them read question paper to find out what I studied yesterday, whether any questions are there. So how many questions, difficult, easier there? Don't do that, because it is a waste of time. And what will happen? If at all some question is there which was optional for you, your mind will start thinking, some gadbade. Don't read entire question paper at all. Start one by one. Start first, transfer. Start second, transfer. So that will help you to complete all 200 questions within given time. Next is 200 questions, 4 hours. So your relation, 70 seconds for each question, 1.2 minute. So 1.2 minute, wherever you are, put ABCD any, go ahead. If you waste time in particular types of questions, what will happen? Your entire time span will go away. And definitely you will be putting more effort somewhere, lesser effort somewhere. So whatever time is saved, because some of the questions will be very easy and you don't require even 1.2 minutes. You will be answering within 30 seconds. These 30 seconds will be helpful for you at end. If those are accumulated, you may get 10 minutes to review everything. So 200 questions, 4 hours, 1.2 minutes. How that has to be observed? Let us see now. If 200 questions are there, exam is going to start at 9, mark timing. At a 50th question, you mark 10 o'clock. At 100th question, you mark 11 o'clock. You write down all these notes in your diary. It will be very helpful for you to remember all this at night time, early morning. So for 200 question, mark timing at 50 at 10 o'clock. At 100th question, mark 11 o'clock. At 150th question, mark 12 o'clock. At 200 question, mark 1 o'clock. What will happen? You start solving question, and when 10 o'clock is there, and if you are around 45, 47, then you are on right track. But if you are on 30 or 25 at 10 o'clock, means definitely you are lagging. You have to speed up. At 100 questions, you should be at 11 o'clock. And if you are 99 question, 100 question, then you are on right track. This will help you that whether you are moving in the right direction. This is very essential. This is the most important tip for the exam, that you should complete all the questions in the given time. We are not talking about the ET, so I'm not discussing that, another option. Your positive attitude throughout the 4 hours is necessary. Why? Because if some questions are good, some questions are excellent, some questions are bad, and when bad question is there, your tempo is likely to go down. You are likely to feel a throat irritation, and if your throat is sore, tension mounts here in the head. So to avoid that, you have to have a water bottle or something like chewing soft tablet. Soft tablets are very excellent to keep smoothing the throat, because our thought process is coupled with stomach, throat, and mind. So all these three affect simultaneously. You don't know. Some of the students told me that after 50 questions, after 2 minutes, 3 minutes break, I kept quiet. I just closed my eyes, took some tea or water, relaxed, and restarted. I could do much better because a lot of tension is there, a lot of fatigue is there. Last 2-3 months we are working, we are waiting for this day. So that tension is here. So 2-3 minutes break, if required, you should take. Then when you start solving 10th question, 15th question, and then 16th question comes, very difficult. But as I mentioned, within 1.2 minutes, you gave the D answer, but you are not sure. At left-hand side, you can mark some of the marks that this question I have solved, but I am not sure. Go ahead. Again, 46 question is difficult. Mark that. Whatever type, whatever sign you select, mark one sign. Otherwise, if you type all these signs, you will confuse why I put this all sign. One sign at a time. So that at end, if you get 10 minutes, you can revisit that question, because you already completed, your mind is calm and quiet. And if you feel that answer is correct, don't worry, go ahead. If you feel that answer is not correct, and if 200% you are sure, then have good eraser. Cancel that. Put now new answer and then go ahead. Always remember, while you change the answer, You have to be doubly sure that your new answer is correct answer. Okay. So I am insisting that you must solve all the questions. Definitely you remember all the questions you must solve. And definitely that will help you that whatever mistakes are there, whatever wrong answers are there, that will give you leverage to reach 120 correct answers. So no negative marking. Even though that answer, you don't know anything in that area, try to recollect, try to think that what is asked. Many times when I revisited the question, I have noticed, see the problem when we are not understanding, as I mentioned, cover the answer, read the question again. Second time, I come to know best, least, top, greatest, shortest, longest, these words attach with some other word. And then our mind starts working because our mind is capable, whatever we have done in the class, whatever we heard on the faculty, whatever we read, that all things come back to your temporary memory immediately. Random access memory. Random access memory is a beautiful gift by the God. You don't require to remember everything. At time requires, that comes to your help. So solve all the questions. That was that is my request to all. Pinching. Many students have told me that they solve all the questions on the question paper. A, B, B. At A, they sat for transferring to the answer sheet. And then what happened? So 2 or 3 students told me that it was exactly 1 o'clock and I transferred all answers. The answer sheet is full, but there are 4 answers still on the question paper, which no place is there because they missed some of the places. 200 places are there. So my suggestion to you, technique, 1 question is solved, transfer that answer on the first in the answer sheet. Go to the next. So what happens? Moment I have 199, 200, there are enough place and you have done everything correctly. Otherwise, if one place is missed, it is very difficult at last 10 minutes to rub everything and put new answers again. And definitely the point is that time is flash, come again, CA. So definitely don't do that. Start sequentially. So many students said that, oh, this is easy, I will solve this. No. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 100, 100, like that. Don't do that. I had done 15, 16, this. No. Because you will not remember which is correct answer you have written, which answer you attempted, which question you attended. Go sequentially. System, plan, process has to work in this direction only. Many students whom I guided for last couple of exams, they said all these tips were very useful because in the exam time, there are multiple pressures, technical knowledge, subject knowledge, selection, question sets, question papers. Then a lot of things we are hearing that questions are coming from e-learning hub, questions are coming from the 6 module, questions are coming from the market, questions are coming from CISA, questions are coming from CASA, anywhere, from wherever one question can come anywhere. You can't think because you are going to do the system audits. You are tested. How you are tested? 60%. You are allowed to do the mistake or miss 40%. So don't worry, solve everything, complete everything. Then next point is linkage. Many of the students are confused. They start solving the question. And then question come about the system development life cycle. After 15 question, again, they think, oh, this question already came, that has come again. And they say, oh, that time, okay, go back, see. No, never do that. Because there might be some change is there in question or option. So definitely each question, your relation with that question is finished. Never go back. If you go back, you are likely to change that answer. So no linkage. 1. When difficult question comes, very good question come, easy question come, don't do the linkage. That up till now, so many difficult questions are there. Only one this good question is there. How I am going to pass? Don't think at all. Because remember, you are competing with other student, how much he has studied. So everyone is in the same boat. There is no excellence in this exam because everybody is like you, like me, a chartered accountant. So we are in the same boat. Somebody may be knowing something more, somebody may be knowing less. So no linkage. That is very important to remember. Next is what is asked and what question answer comes to your mind. First, out of 1, 2, 3, that is likely to be correct. What we can do, you revisit the question, you revisit the answers, but stick to your first. Our mind, our wisdom, our intellect works many times. If you're seen your life, that suddenly you get the idea. Suddenly your all stored knowledge in the brain helps you. So sometimes our intuition says, oh, this is right. Sometimes that is the correct answer. And whenever you have knowledge of that subject, then I'm sure that you will be coming to that conclusion. But otherwise, if the confusion is there, then go with your heart. Go with your heart. Remember carefully. Sometimes you require to go by brain. Sometimes you require to go by heart. Sometimes you have to use both tactics to solve that question. Never correct original answer unless you are 200% sure. Why? That optical character reader that reads that question. If you are not able to erase completely, that black spot will remain there. And if the one option which you have given, which is dark, and another which will erase, which is not properly erased, both answer will be highlighting to that machine, and that answer will not be evaluated. 0. So it is good idea. 100% correct in mind. Then only you correct that and use good eraser to erase that earlier answer. I'm going to come to that point, that how those eraser and pencils and those things should be carried. Give me 1 second and come back. Yeah, I'm on time. As I mentioned, our eyes are a key in whole our body structure. For example, when I was reading this, I'm also reading at the chart that somebody has typed something. I'm also seeing Nidhi madam is there. I'm also seeing the two people are there. And simultaneously, I'm seeing some pain is there. My eye gives maybe at least 10 types of reflection. So what happens? When I read the question, when I read the answer, my eyes are going up and down, simultaneously giving the reflection. And I'm not understanding the question. So, point here is carry the scale, and if you carry the scale, cover the answer and see only question. And when you have 100% concentration of your eyes on the questions, sometimes answer comes to your mind. Or you remove the scale and the answer is there, one of the options. So this eye reflections management is very essential. Eye is very crucial. And for that, today night, you must sleep well. Tomorrow morning, you should have a clean, very eyes are very refreshed. And some of the smoothing drops are there. Maybe you can use that, because 4 hours concentration sitting at one place, that all of our organs are pressured in that. And eyes are the starting point of the strain. So covering answer, reading the answer, doing the in-between actions of eyes is very much essential. Well, paragraphs are there in questions. Remember, if big question is there, big stories are there, definitely answer is easy. Remember, very always. the pressure is put by putting blah, 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 blah. So good idea is come to the last point, last para, what they said. In about table, find out whether there is a problem of the segregation of duties. And then start looking at the story and you will realize nothing is there in that story. In one of the places there that two people are doing same thing. So it is always good idea if table is there. Some of the questions are printed on one page and the second part comes to the next page. So you don't know here, there. So go to the last, read that and come to the beginning. That helps to many of the people, many of the students in well manner. As I mentioned, here it is our exam is DISA exam, but the information technology is common in the whole world. The practices are common in the whole world. In India now, many multinational companies are operating here. Many multinational companies are UK, with so many companies are having offices here, manufacturing here, services here. So they operate on the basis of the global standards. So CISA, Information System Audit Control Association, which is a parent body, though many of the things Institute has taken from them, many of the questions from them are Indianized, or Indian questions are developed by the Indian faculties. Answers in exam should be global. Do not think what is in your office. Information of your office technology, your company technology is useful, but the practices depends on the client's environment. In the examination, a best standard answer is expected. So from that, if you remember some time back, I mentioned to you that if halon gas is to be fired in whole world, even if single man is stuck inside the computer system, halon gas is not required to be fired because that man's life is very important. And we are likely to confuse abundant population in India. That one person dies, what matters? In internationally, it matters. So in your office, if certain practice is there of the password change, that does not mean globally that practice is there. From the exam content, that what is asked, you should relate that what should be the base at this. And remember, the global answer many times cover a second level answer also. Means a larger answer is a correct answer. For example, sometime back we saw one question, backup and mirroring. Mirroring includes backup. So larger answer is correct answer. If I say only backup, in that example, they are saying integrity 24/7 means constantly whatever is happening in the computer system is properly backed up. In daily backup, it will be happening at the end of the day. So this difference you should try to understand, and the larger answer is the correct answer in the exam point of view. In English language, for example, English language is the crucial or the American English because many of the computer related all activities are originated in the US. The naming convention, if you say that all those are happening in America, and in America, the English language is used the grammatical corrections. Miss color, they do the spelling COLOR, but right spelling is COLOUR, color. So that English you require to understand carefully from the what is asked, and don't get confused. It is very simple, clear, but that mindset, don't go into that there is a mistake in spelling. Don't worry. It is not at all asked that you have to find out the mistakes. No. Whatever is given, treat as correct. If the question and answer both are wrong, don't worry. The institute will remove that from evaluation because many students at end, the end page is there. Some students are required to write there. Some of the questions are wrong. The institute will definitely evaluate that. If this question is wrong, printing mistake is there, they will remove that. Don't worry about that. Then, for example, you need to understand debugging. Debugging and debugging. Debugging is removing the mistakes, and debugging is planting the mistakes. So if any question comes by debugging, You don't think that this should be debugging. Debugging means, for example, in program, purposely mistakes are planted. And they are finding out from the tool whether that mistake is found. And that planting mistakes is called debugging. So from that point, remember carefully that English words and some of the things are required to be taken care from the exam point of view. It is allowed on the question paper. You carry the marker, you carry the pencil, and while reading, go on marking because time is short. Again, if you go a second time and start marking, because when I want to mark, I'm required to think which is important. And then whole my mind starts searching what is important. And there your mind starts working for answer. And for that, you carry in hand pencil or rubber and start reading. What is the point in carrying this? The sense of the dignity like this, when I carry these, and if this stop, that means my mind is stopped. If this is moving with the line, means my mind, hand, eye, everything is synchronized. So sometimes carrying the pencil or this in hand and reading is very much essential. In 4 hours, calm and quiet. Because sitting 4 hours is definitely not at all we are habituated to. So for this, remember, sometimes it is allowed that you can go for a toilet, you can have 1 second stand here, have a free this thing and come back and sit. The calm and quietness is required to give. Whoever is your God, wherever, whatever your prayers are there, in 2 minutes you can close your eyes and try to concentrate, think, and sit for calm 1 minute and start. So that is required to be done at least once in an hour. And after 2 hours, definitely, because what happens, our energy and everything, first hour is excellent. Second hour is reduced a little bit. Third hour is reduced more. Fourth hour efficiency level comes to 50%. So this we have to nurture. And from that point, even you carry the water, you carry the electral, but carry what is allowed for you. Because sometimes some people are not having comfortable for some medicine, so don't carry. But carry some of the things which are allowed and have those in between. Very important is food and rest. Remember, many students have mentioned that day before, now today night, tomorrow morning, and for going for the exam, have a normal food, whatever you are eating. Don't take anything like excess sweet or dahi or sour something which can create trouble. Because what happens, if at all you are already having a tension, and some of the people may have acidic nature, if something different is eaten, then they will have that 4 hours trouble. Like stomach is trouble, mind is trouble, and then if you are not comfortable, others will also not be feeling this. Dress should be comfortable wherever you go. There may be AC, there may be fan, there may be window. Now weather is good, that raining is there, but still easy dress should be there. Two advantage, that you are comfortable to sit for 4 hours, and unnecessary tight dress, you yourself will become uncomfortable, and others will also will unnecessarily getting attention to you, and then you becoming uncomfortable. So have a normal dress throughout the examination process.
Shirish sir, your audio is not coming, sir. Shirish sir, your audio is missing, sir. Shirish sir,
Suresh
your
sir, we are
audio-
not able to listen you. Suresh sir, I think sir के पास हमारा मैसेज जा नहीं पा रहा है. Meanwhile, Suresh sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Suresh sir, आपका ऑडियो नहीं आ रहा था, तो अभी कुछ रह मैं म्यूट हो रही हूँ. आप प्लीज ओवर टू यू नाउ सर. So, meanwhile, Suresh sir has shared various techniques, and they have guided us over exam approach. What should we do during our exam? How we have to behave during our exam, and they have shared very useful tips regarding the scale, how and the marker which we need to carry. And they also shared how we have to, during one day prior to the exam, how we have to behave, what kind of food we have to take. So they have almost touched everything. So thank you, Sri sir, for enlightening us over the exam approach. And your tricks are really very amazing. And I hope that it is going to be very useful for our exam aspirants. So regarding question answers, most of the questions are already covered during the exam, but few of the audience, like one Reena Ashok Jain, she would like to thank Sri for her for the mind and the wisdom slide. One small question was from Naga K. Chaitanya. He want to ask that where he can get the risk assessment Excel. So I think sir are not audible. So I will share these questions personally to sir, and they will answer accordingly. So now I would like to, yes sir. Yes sir, yes sir. Sir will, sir will type the answer over the chat box. Yes. So, sir has written that Excel sheet is in module 1. So, thank you, Srish sir, for this wonderful deliberation. We are really, really very sincerely grateful to you for sparing your valuable time for us. Now, I would like to welcome our next speaker of the webinar, Dr. Saurabh Maheshwari. So he is an entrepreneur, an educational strategist, national trainer, and national awardee, author and poet, and a career and startup mentor. He is a life coach, IAS auditor, data analyst, political researcher, and an academician. So if we'll talk about Dr. Maheshwari academics, he is BE in IT from Manipal University, BA in English Literature and Economics from Kota University, MTech Information System from IIT Delhi, MBA from Information System Management, IASE University, LLB Kota University, Executive MBA from Digital Marketing IMT Ghaziabad, PhD in System Development and Data Analyst for Education Management USA. Mr. Saurabh is director at Wise Consultants, independent external advisor of 21K School, Career Point University, Podar Institution, Mr. Saurabh is Director in Business Development at Saras 3D ED Tech Private Limited, Startup Mentor at SGT University, Atal Community Innovation Center, and as a national trainer at ICAI with good 11 years of experience, and he almost took 200 batches over 50 cities. So in this webinar, Mr. Maheshwari will cover module 4, 5, and 6, which are the technical modules in ESA. As we are running short of time, so without wasting much of our time, I would straight hand over this webinar to Mr. Saurabh Maheshwari. Saurabh ji, this is all yours now. Please welcome.
Thank you, Nidhi ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam. You have given a decent time in elaborating my profile and all.
Yes.
But anyway, the purpose is to get the interaction. So I request you first to allow me to share the screen so that I can open up my presentation.
Yes, sir. Sir, please do that.
I have not been allowed to share my presentation. Please allow me to share my PPT.
Okay. Sir, are you getting a screen share option?
No, I'm not getting screen share option. You have to make me the co-host.
I would like to request our technical support team just to make Dr. Saurabh and allow him.
Yeah. No, it's there. It's there. It's at home. Thank you.
Okay.
I hope you are able to see the screen.
Yes.
Great. So anyway, it was an amazing deliberation by Shri sir. He is very respected and also a mentor to me as well. And I was not able to listen his entire session, but I'm sure that you had a good learning experience with him. So continuing the session, the task which was given to me by Institute is to take care of the module 5, 6, and 7. 4, 5, and 6 of you. So I'll start with module 5, which is the most comprehensive module. And continuing with that, we'll be taking care of module 4 as well within it. And then we'll end up by 6 and obviously few things with 4 as well. In between, I request that if there are any queries and questions to be asked on, you keep on posting on Q&A session, or Nidhi ma'am will take care of that. And with respect to Q&As and all those things, we'll take it later on. But the prime focus is to make sure that within this 1.5 hour timeline, 90 minutes, which is given to me, I should be able to take care of maximum topics which are important for you and give you some important things. So before beginning the topic, one key thing which I want everybody to listen and focus on is that focus on logic and focus on keywords. Right. So IAS audit is not a rocket science. You are doing auditing. So for the technological part, I request you to focus on the keywords. So keywords means the technical terms, which are jargons. Actually, you can say that from the IT perspective, which may be difficult for you to understand. So please focus on those and make sure in less 90 minutes, you'll be able to build up the logic, which is being required from technical side to solve that auditing part. So no rocket science, logic plus keyword. These are the only two things which I want. And I request you all to please solve the questions also in the similar manner, that try to find out the keywords into that particular question and connect to the logic which has been there. Obviously, IAS logic is one, that is system logic, and one is the logic of IAS auditor, which is already there, the auditor logic which is already there in your DNA. Fine, so focus on logic and keywords. So continuing with that, as you have already covered up module 1, 2, and 3, so I'm taking care of module 4, 5, and 6. And in technicality, we are going to cover 48% of the entire module in 48% of the entire syllabus in next around 90 minutes. So I'll start with module 5, which is related to protection of information as such. So before beginning the module, you should know what the crux of the module. It's related to finding out the mechanisms in which what are the vulnerabilities and how controls are connected to that. What are the weakness and threats and how controls will be aligned to that. So our main focus will be mapping the risks and controls actually, and finding out the mechanisms in which systematically we'll be able to figure out what is the risk management framework, which Shri sir has already covered up in a brief manner. That is what is risk control matrix. I'll try to elaborate that out slightly and make sure you are aligned to physical, environmental, logical risks and all, or maybe network, hardware and software risk, or maybe related to input, output and processing risks and all. So I'll try to classify that in somehow nutshell manner for you all. See, when it comes to information system securities and management, there are a few things which can be asked in this manner. That is, what is the role of a senior management? How senior management support is critical for implementing controls, implementing security related parts, and make sure that system is as safe as possible. So technically speaking, everything should be aligned with, now mark my words, everything should be aligned with connecting the risk with the business objective. See, as a top management or as a governing body of a company, people may not be so aligned with the technology. So you have to make sure that the risks which are available from the IT side, which you can visualize from your auditing perspective, are connected in the business terminologies and is known to the management. So the only way to combine is linking the IT risk with the business risk. Mark my words, business risk connection is important. Correct? And that is the role of an IAS auditor, to make this align so that you can ignite their interest into putting up the right control at the right place. Make sure the approach should be proactive as much as possible. So rather than finding out a solution after the problem has actually occurred, you should find out a solution before the problem could have occurred. So preventive controls are more important than detective and corrective controls. So your focus should be on providing maximum preventive controls in place. If not preventing controls, then look for secondary options like detective and corrective controls on the secondary side. Correct? So whenever you are answering a question, make sure if there is a choice that which of the following is the foremost control or the most prominent control to be implemented in XYZ situation, analyze that 4 options. If there is any option which is a preventive control, that is by default the answer, because detective and corrective controls will not be the foremost choice. They can be secondary and tertiary choices, but not the primary choice. Then go for adoption of standards. That is, Shri sir might have already discussed with you some of the ISO standards, COVID frameworks and all. So make sure you are adopting those standards, because in that format, what happens is that your answers will be more connected, or your solutions will be more connected to the global level. So make sure that these standards are known to you. And if ISO 27000, ISO 22301, COVID 2019 framework, COSO framework, ITIL framework, ITAF framework, these are the terminologies and names that needs to be aligned not only from the examination perspective, but also from practical perspective. Then framing of policies that you already know, which is the G part of it, GRC. So everything needs to be framed first, policy needs to be framed first, then only the implementation can happen. Then comes the exception handling, which is again very important part. If you feel like there are certain errors and exceptions which can occur in some situations, so you should be putting up exception handling out there. So in your questions also, there are certain questions in the past which has been asked from this perspective, that if the preventive solutions were not been implemented, again, detective and corrective are also not been implemented, then what needs to be done? So those exceptions, which are very rarely to happen, you need to have exception handling in place of those things for which the preventive, detective and corrective controls are not being in position or not being implied. Then comes segregation, rotation duties, which is again very important part. And that is the reason you might have already discussed in your entire syllabus before also, in with Shri sir as well, that we classify each and every role into a systematic hierarchy in an organization. And that hierarchy takes care of specific roles and responsibilities. So every person will have defined roles and responsibilities. No intermingling, no overlapping. Now in that, again, a key point which comes up very frequently in the questions is that institute asks that which of the following 2 roles cannot be combined together? Fine. So whether it is DA and DBA, can these 2 roles be combined together? Yes. Can a role of a tester be combined?
To intervene you, but I have received few of the requests from the audience, and can you keep your pace a bit slow so that they all can be with you?
I know that's a problem, but in that case, I will not be able to cover up the entire syllabus.
Sorry.
I will not be able to cover up the entire syllabus. That's a challenge.
So we have received so many requests, so I thought that I must share.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So I'll try to slow it down, but in that case, pardon me out. I will share this presentation to you if you all want. But if I'll slow down the pace, 90 minutes are very small enough to cover 3 modules. I think you can link to that. Fine. So anyway, so I'll slow down. So segregation of duties means, see, there are multiple roles and responsibilities, including steering committee, strategy committee, IS auditor, tester, programmers, data administrator, database administrator, and multiple roles are there. So where clear-cut questions, and there are very frequently been asked by the institute, is that which of the 2 responsibilities and which of the 2 roles cannot be combined to each other? So mark my words, 2 roles which are conflicting to each other, which are in such a manner that if they are combined together, then in totality they can create a blunder, cannot be linked up together. And there is only one, mark my words, there is only one role which cannot be combined. It is the programmer's role. It is a coder's role, because coder knows inside the system what they have actually programmed, fine, what is their vulnerabilities and all, and they can open up the software do the mishappenings and do the problems out there, conduct certain unwanted transactions, and again coincide and cover things out there so that evidences get missed out that who has done it. So if there is any option in your answers which is related to programmer or coder, mark that answer by default, because that is the only role which cannot be combined with any other role in the entire information system, development, auditing, or operation purpose. Okay. Then comes training and awareness part. You know, technology related thing has been moving very fast. So obviously it's not possible that one-time training is sufficient enough for them to carry out their entire business operations rules and all. So make sure regular training and upgradation is a process, and that has to be conducted as per the requirements of an organization. No fixed 3 months, 6 months, 1 month time is required. That is to be done as and when the upgradation is being programmed in the system. Configuration management, you all know that whenever you are hiring whenever you are purchasing a hardware or a software, the compatibility of these things is very important. So it's not like you are purchasing best of the best printer from the market and which is not aligned or maybe cannot be installed on your hardware, or maybe you have purchased an application or a software which is good enough in the market, which is cost effective as well, but that may not be installable in your system. So configuration between hardware and software is important, and you need to take care of that. So my take is that whenever you are talking about senior management commitment and support, the commitment should come from all these sides from the management. That training and awareness should be scheduled by them. Segregation should be perfectly been done. Exception handling policies are there. Standards should be adopted. Proactive approach should be there. Making sure IT risks are aligned to the business objective. If these things are being done, you can expect that senior management commitment and support to be there with you for security management. Correct? That is the purpose we are talking about, security management. Is that clear? Then comes challenges faced. So implementing policies. Now mark my words. The smallest of the challenges is, suppose you have made a very good policy that password has to be 10 characters, alphanumerics, and all those things. But you have not implemented that policy from the technical perspective in your ERP or in your information system. Now, what will happen is that your policy and your systems are not aligned to each other. So it's not like developing a policy is sufficient enough. Implementation is equally important. So in your questions, if it has been related to only development, not implementation, mark that thing, that is not the right answer. You have to make sure it's not only development. The entire implementation of that policy and standard is equally important. Computer crimes and exposure we'll discuss later on. And incident handling you have already taken care by sir in your module 2, which is related to business continuity planning, in which every problem, every minus, every negative aspects has already been taken care of as an incident response plan by sir. Fine. So I'll quickly jump up to what is the risk management process, which is known as ERM, Enterprise Risk Management. So I have classified the ERM process, which is being taken from your module in a systematic 8-step process. All these 8 steps are in your module. I have just put up them into sequence just for a better understanding, or maybe creating a logic for you before you answer a question. So all these 8 steps will be discussed in the further slides by me. What I have done is that I have just put up 8 steps here. In the next slide, you can see on the left-hand side that these 8 steps are there. On the right-hand side, I have just put up the details for that. So this is how I am just trying to correlate that your logic is building in a systematic manner. Fine. Although I am not using the same content and slide which is being provided by the institute, but I am using the same thing compiled in a different manner just for your learning process. First thing, whenever you are going for risk management framework, that is putting up the right control, the right place, don't you feel the first thing is that what is important for an organization? That is asset identification. Fine. And that in terms of computers, in terms of IT systems, in terms of entire automation of a business, you can classify assets into multiple ways out. That is hardware assets, software assets, terminal assets, server, that is networking assets. You can have data related assets. You can have your trademarks and patents or intellectual properties. User itself is a very important asset for you. Correct? So classify them in whatever best possible manner you need to do. But point is that asset identification, not classification, identification. Asset identification is important. So identify assets into simplest thing. Correct? With each and every step, make sure in the bottom side I have put on auditor's role. And your examination institute is going to ask your question from auditor side much more. So suppose there is a problem that servers need to be identified. So what is the auditor role into that? Point is that auditor has to be classifying that which server is important for us. If organization have database server, organization has email server, organization may have a proxy server. Now, all of these three, or maybe one more server is like your processing server or application server. Now, out of application server, database server, your email server, and your proxy server, which of the following is the most critical server to be taken care of? Now, although all servers are important to make your organization work, but rest everything is recoverable in one or the other manner. The only server which is database server, you need to take the security of that server on the priority basis. So make sure it's not uniform controls. It's not same control on the servers. It is on criticality of that particular assets, and that is the reason asset identification is one role. Second task which is needs to be done is asset valuation and classification. You can see I am coming on second point. So you have to classify the assets on the basis of tangible, intangible assets. You need to value that particular asset. And again, mark my words, valuation of a particular asset is not standard. The valuation of an asset keeps on changing with time, because either with time assets will increase their value because their requirements is much, they are helping multiple departments, they are having hold on data. And in some cases, the valuation of an hardware or valuation of a particular network equipment decreases with time because their value is diminishing. Okay. So you can classify into tangible, intangible, like servers, computer, peripheral devices, or intangible, which is more important from our side, is process, patents, goodwill, database, documents like your policies and processes. And in that intangible part, let me just give you one small thing. Fine. In that intangible part, make sure we are able to classify the assets into following heads, which are important from the examination point of view as well. And I hope you can recall it from your other learnings also. We classify them into 5 heads. That is top secret, highly confidential, proprietary, internal usage, and public usage. So all these data and the database or patents or processes which we are using can be classified into these. That is highly confidential. Fine. Top secret, that means they are not accessible to anyone apart from few people in the top management side. Internal use means people can use internally for those things, and something which is public can be made public to outside. So these are the ways out. I'll just put it out. That is known as what? Top secret. I'm putting up notations just for you. So T has become top secret, highly confidential HC, right? Becomes proprietary content, becomes internal usage, and then becomes public. Fine. So whenever you are classifying your intangible data, intangible assets, you can classify them into these things. And on the basis of classification, now you by default able to figure it out that which particular asset needs the highest level of controls and which can be left aside without putting up a control, because those are public assets, can be used by anyone. So these things are known as what? These are known as schemas. So you have to classify some of the other schemas as per your requirement. This schema is one of the most famous schema or one of the most used schema all over the world. That is top secret, highly confidential, proprietary, internal use, and public documents. Correct? Once you are putting up the assets into evaluation and once you identify the assets, you create one document which is known as what? IAR. Mark my words, IAR is a very, very, very important, very critical document to prepare and map. An IAS auditor is responsible for both the things. That is, if you are the first one, you have to prepare this document. And if you are the successor of an IAS auditor, you have to update this document so that with time, whatever the changes from the asset side which are happening in the organization must be reflected in this particular documentation. And that's the role of an IAS auditor. Correct? So one part, which is asset identification and classification, needs to be done. That is one way how you identify that these are the valuable assets, and that is how you are able to classify them into different categories. That is one thing. Second important thing is that risk identification and risk classification, right? So you have to identify the risks. And when you are identifying the risk can be identified from all possible angles. And everybody, mark my words, every individual in the company who is having a vested interest in well-being of the company should be considered for listing out the risk, because their role can be connected to specific tasks, specific data and processes, and they know their role much better. So if there is a risk on their role, they will be able to tell. So that's the reason, in whatever best possible manner, like questionnaires, like interviews, like representing them in a hierarchical manner, the risk listing or identification of risk should be done from everybody's side. So that means entire census or everybody in the company should be considered into that. Correct? And with that, you can have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of risks which come up. Like people will say virus is a risk, bomb is a risk, flood is a risk, fire is a risk, unwanted employee is a risk. From hacking, you have a risk on mails. From hacking, you have a risk on your data and all. So they will tell all these things. So once this entire risk listing or risk identification is there, you need to go with risk classification, which is the most critical part of module 5. In module 5, these two things, that is one, this classification, and one is this classification, are being done. I think this has already been discussed by Shirish sir in module 3, which is input, process, and boundary controls and output controls. I will also talk about this, although this is a part of module 2. So module 2 and module 3 related things are also there. I have put up that into a nutshell for you for a recall, but primarily we'll be focusing on these two things, that is on the basis of nature and application, right? Now that's a detailed part for it. Now, once you are able to classify the risk, my take is that what is physical risk? Fine. What is boundary control? What is administrative control? You need to take on that. So I'll take one by one, so you can check it out. I am talking about first the nature. So it's nature related risk. And these are the 5 risks which are there. Now, as an IAS auditor or as from the examination side, you need to take care of few things. What is the risk? What is the reason behind the occurrence of that particular risk? What could be the impact of the risk? Fine. So it is all impact based. What can be the policies and control which can be implemented from your side to keep them in control? And what is the role of an auditor to make sure this is under the acceptable level always? So we'll talk about physical risk from all these 5 points. We'll talk about environmental risk again on all these 5 points. Is that clear? So we'll take in a very systematic manner so that you can align those things. And mark my words, I'm putting you something out here. We are only talking about risk classification, but I will take controls here. The only reason of putting up risk here and controls also systematically is so that you can align that for this which are the controls which are relevant. Although control related discussion comes in point number 7 because that is risk management, control, adjustment and all. But I'm just aligning it for your purpose so that you can correlate it out. I hope it's clear, right? So we'll talk about first the nature of the risk, and that from the environment, physical side, we'll take it first. So I'll just, hold on. Okay. I hope that's visible to you. Physical risks and control. Fine. So check what are the risks, what are the reason, what is the impact, and what are the policies and control. So physical risk is somebody entering into your premises physically and damaging. So unauthorized person entering, unauthorized person entering the premise, right? Vandalism, damage, data theft. These are the risks which can happen because of physical intrusion and physical presence of attackers in your company. What is the reason? Reason can be your older employees whose permissions and entry related things have not been disabled. Rivals, organized criminals, people under financial and emotional problem who can be bargained and modified for some advantages. Outside agencies who are interested into your being stopping the work, or employees who are under termination and all, they're interested to destroy it out. The impact could be obviously confidentiality breach, data breach, demand of ransom, excess of law, asset loss, goodwill loss, misuse of data, and all these things can happen as an impact. What needs to be done? You need to have a physical security policy. Now, depending on the criticality, so obviously if you are having your premise, if you are having your office near to India-Pakistan border, your physical security policy needs to be more confined, more specific. But if you are having your office not in India-Pakistan border, but maybe in Jaipur or maybe in Indore, where the physical risks are pretty much low enough and people are quiet and normal enough to behave in, I think your physical security policies can be slightly normal down. So again, mark my words, all these things cannot be copy-pasted. Two CAs may have the similar working, similar offices and all, but both of their security policies from environmental, physical, logical will be differentiated to each other. So no copy-pasting at all. For physical things, logs are important. That is manual logs. You know that. Locks, tale, everybody knows. CCTV, perimeter fencing, badges which are there. You know, in a revenue organization, if you have gone to certain embassies of UK and US, you know there are multiple badges which are given of different colors. So you are a visitor, you are a student, you are a visa request person, fine, or you are an employee of the company. There are different badges and different cards. You wear it out. So just by identifying whatever the badges you are wearing, the physical security guards will be able to deter you from sensitive areas. Fine. And many more things are there for physical, like single entry exit points. You know that museums and all have it. Deadman doors, you have read it, deadman doors, what they are. You can avoid multiple, limited number of users can also be there. Okay, only at one point of time, 100 users will be inside. So all these physical controls can be implemented to avoid any physical damage. So I'm not focusing much on physical controls because that is very obvious to you all. I'll be more focused on logical part, which is critical for you to understand. Correct? So that is first thing, which is what? Physical. Correct? So I'm coming back out here. You can check out. We have discussed about physical. And in physical, we have talked about risk, reason, impact, policies, and auditor's role. Now, immediately I am jumping to the second part, which is what? The environmental risk. So in environmental part, you can check it out. What is the risk? What are the reason? What is the impact and what is policy? So environmental risk, what? Fire, flood, water, earthquake, tornado, tsunami, and pandemic today are also coming under the environmental. Right? So all this is the risk. Every risk can have multiple reasons to occur. So fire can be because there is a lighter which is light down, or maybe there was a cigarette which was not being there, or it can be because of the lightning which comes up because of heavy thunderstorm. Right? So you need to understand. And that is the reason all these environmental risks are classified into two things. One is what? Man-made, and another is what? Natural. Fine. So if it is natural, that is unavoidable. You can only put up a control to mitigate the impact of it which can be arising. But if it is man-made threats, obviously some controls can be put up to avoid man-made environmental issues. Correct? So put those right controls at the right place. So what could be the reason? Very easy. Every risk has a different reason. So in your module, there are two risks which are being specifically identified. I'll also talk about those three things for your purpose only. One is fire, and one is not mentioned out here. I've just forgotten out. Electricity, or you can say power supply, which is again very important. And why we are putting up in the environmental part? Because power supply is not in your control majorly. It is coming up from a grid part, electricity supply bodies and all. So when it comes to fire, you know that it's very common that fire can happen because of fluctuations, sparkings, and all those things. If there is a possibility of a fire burst in your company, make sure you are using fire resistance material. Now mark my words, fire extinguishers are corrective controls. Fire detectors are detective controls. Now, detectors are important or extinguisher is important. I say both of them are secondary. The primary focus should be on putting up the fire resistance material so that fire should not get burst out. So again, preventive is important rather than detective and corrective. Sensors are detective, extinguishers are corrective. Important thing is detective options, correct? Preventive options. So in that case, fire burst preventive controls. Now again, in terms of corrective controls, you can have halon gas, you can have CO2 gas, you can have multiple gases and all. So these are all there in part of your module. So take care of that. But apart from that, fire in washroom or fire in server room needs to be classified, because washroom fire may not be so important for you as compared to the server room fire. So always do not treat each and every problem or each and every risk in a similar manner. Try to classify what is the intensity of that particular risk, where the risk is occurring, and then put up the right controls, or maybe find out the severity of that particular risk. Okay. Then comes power issues, which are already mentioned out. I just made it out. So power and supply issues are there in point number 3. Now, fluctuations, availability of power supply are critical issues. So first is availability, which is, I think there's a keyword which is there in your book, which is known as what? Blackout. Blackout means unavailability of supply. So make sure blackout should not happen. So for that, have power supply from multiple substations, have UPS, have inverters, have generators, so that, because you know that when it comes to IT, without power supply, the devices cannot function. Correct? So with that, make sure that you are focusing on that particular continuity of the power supply. Another keyword which is mentioned in your module is surge, S-U-R-G-E, surge. Surge means higher power fluctuations. Fluctuations on a higher side. Now that is very dangerous, because your devices, which is meant for a 9 volt of power supply, if there is a 12 volt power supply to that, then obviously chip get busted. So for surge, you put surge protectors. Now mark my word, surge protectors and stabilizers are same thing. It's just the terminology difference. Fine, in IT, we termed as surge protectors. In normal conditions, wherein you put up ACs and all those things, it is termed as a stabilizer. But put stabilizer is not the right word for you. Right word is what? Surge protectors. Surge protectors, okay? Then comes dip, that is power supply can go down as well. Now down power supply is not dangerous for system, because chip will not get burst. It's not going to hamper, but work will get stopped. So make sure it's not only higher power supply that needs to be managed, the lower power supply or dip in the power supply, it also needs to be managed. Apart from that, there is another bigger issue that is known as transient. TRNSIENT. Now transient is what? There's a sound signals which are traveling over the electricity power. So you might have heard sometime that with electricity signal, there is humming sound which comes sometime. Now that humming sound is dangerous for your devices. It can lead to data losses. It can lead to important communication breaches and network data flow can lead to a wrong direction as well. So try to avoid these things. So I'm repeating 4 problems: blackout, surge, dip, and transient. So make sure whenever you are managing your electricity power supply, these 4 things need to be taken care of. Correct? And these are the keywords for you. Apart from that, earthquake, tornado, tsunami, these are just the mentioned things out there. No detailing is being stated there. Okay. Just one important thing which I just forgot it out. I just need to mention out here. For physical related things, for physical controls, there are a lot of organizations today which believes on biometric access, so that once the fingerprint or retina impression of face recognitions are identified and matched, then only the permission comes up. Now, in that particular biometric, there is a word called FAR and FRR, for which Institute asks question on a very regular basis. Now, FAR is false acceptance and FRR is false rejection. Now, which is more troublesome for company, false acceptance or false rejection? Now, let me tell you, wrong person coming in is a bigger problem than right person standing outside. Am I right? Wrong person coming inside the premises may create more troubles for the company rather than right person keep standing outside because his fingerprint was not matching today. Maybe yesterday was a holiday, or he might have cooked something and his finger was not perfectly been matching it out. That's a problem. So what is more critical, false positive or false negative? Nidhi ji, false positive or false negative?
So
False positive.
False positive. Wrong person is coming, so it's a more critical
Correct.
thing. Huh?
Right.
Yes.
So institute tweak their answers in such a manner that participants get confused. So make sure you should make a sense of it. And as Siri sir has rightly mentioned, do not panic, because 4 hours for 200 questions is a pretty long time there. Being an engineer, being an IITian, we have to solve 360 questions in 3 hours. Fine. So you can assume that you are getting a very decent time, and that too without calculation and statistical operation, something. It's just a theoretical part. So focus on understanding. Do not rush up. Fine. And एक नंबर की अहमियत क्या होती है, सीए से ज्यादा कोई नहीं समझ सकता. So make sure every marks counts for you. Okay. So
Very
that is
true,
one
sir.
thing, FAR and FRR. Yes, ma'am.
Very true. Very true.
Okay. So reason, risk, impact. Obviously, impact remain the same. Confidentiality, asset loss, data loss, business loss, life loss can also happen. And again, there is a tricky question which has been asked some time back by Institute, is that which of the following thing needs to be prevented and protected, or on the safer side needs to be taken first in the case of a major emergency or a major fire burst? Now, first option was a cash of 20 crore rupees lying in the company, and patents of 100 crores in a documentation lying in the company, 5 employees inside the room which is having fire, and none of the above. Mark my words, neither 20 crores or 100 crore rupees patents is important. The most important thing is to safeguard his life first. Fine. So for distracting CA, you know, you are more diverted towards intellectual properties and cash and all rather than life. But here the life is more important. So make sure you are aligned to that. Life loss should be protected in the priority basis. Correct? And right controls as per fire, water, power spikes, electricity, tornado can be aligned. Whatever is best possible available in the market. But make sure you can only protect your system from man-made environmental issues. For natural environmental issues, you can just pray the God that no major issues should happen on your systems, and you should be able to come out in least possible damages. As we have seen in recent past, there was a cyclone out there, and with proper management, we are able to exit from it without having many life losses or many major damages to that, right? So anyway, that was environmental part. So I'm going back to the main slide because I'll be more focusing on logical part, because that is more critical for you to understand. Third thing is administrative, which is very specific. Now, suppose from the business side of view, if policies are not there, if guidelines are not there, if people are not knowing what needs to be done by them in what manner in the organization, I think you are creating administrative risk. And obviously, you all are running big offices in your own vicinity. You know that the first person who comes, or maybe new person you appointed, the first thing you tell them what? These are the working mechanisms, these are the policies, these are the ways in which we operate. So again, critical important thing is that administrative risks and controls are to be there. And why they occur? Because either the policies are not there, or policies are outdated, or there are open exceptions. Now, open exceptions means even as an individual, I know that what is the way in which I can bypass the norms. The bypass is openly known to me. In that case, I'll not follow the norms. I'll try to bypass the norms. Fine. So open bypass procedure, open exceptions, outdated policies, and no policies at all. These are the risks. Now, what is the way out? Way out is to make sure, as an IAS auditor, you have to identify the loopholes. Fine. Make sure those policies and procedure with loopholes are corrected, and lethargic attitude towards framing up the code of conduct should not happen. Correct? What could be the impact? Again, the impact remains the same because assets are the same. But what are the policies? Make sure that properly crafted policies are there. And here I focus on the word called G, you already read. Governance is very important. And second important thing is compliance is out here. So make sure whatever the rules and regulations or laws which are made by the bodies, and within your organization, what are the governance principles you need to implement? Here, GNC must be focused on, and entire policies and control needs to make sure that all governance and compliance related aspects are implemented in the company, or you are following them on a very rigid basis. No bypassing should be allowed. Okay. And whenever there is a need in the market, need in the society, or force from the industry side, that you have to regularly update those policies, make sure you are not bypassing those things, right? And updating your policies, because just a keyword for you out here. And I think these 3 keywords can be helpful for you for identifying risk and issues. Internet, administrative, physical, environmental, all risks occur because of 3 things, because of 3 major issues in us. Okay. One is we are negligent, right? Second, we focus on certain easy way out to go out, right? And third, because we horrify and we are troublesome into implementing something. That is what lalach, alas, or dar. So make sure if you are making your boundaries outside this lalach, alas, and dar, then all these issues will never come up. Administrative, logical, environmental, physical, and all, because right controls can be implemented by you in the right manner, right? Anyway, immediately going back, talking about 4, that is legal perspective. Legal is not compliances part, which I have already discussed just now. Make sure that no non-compliances risks are occurring on you, and you are fulfilling all laws, all applicable acts and sections which are implemented. So obviously you need to avoid imprisonment, fine, penalties, and all that should be there. Immediately coming to the last part, which is the logical thing, fine, which is the most important part. And I'll be discussing this in the much detailed manner, because maximum question will come from the logical side, and this is the most troublesome thing for a chartered accountant to understand. Fine. So logical, I have put up a different format of slide for you. Now, mark my words, I'm going slightly even more slower out here, Nidhi, so that they will be able to understand. What is logical, dear? Now, logical means what comes up from the technical side of it. Either it can be a bugs in your programming, it can be a virus attack from online systems or malicious softwares, it can be a hacker entering your systems, or it can be a data, unwanted data moving inside, outside. So there can be multiple ways out. And today, you know, impersonation, denial of service issues, social engineering, website defacement, these are common things which I think almost everybody of you are reading somewhere or the other in the newspapers and issues surrounding to you, or maybe corporates you are connecting with. Every logical problem has a reason behind it. Every logical problem will impact on you, and we need to make certain controls to avoid those things. So we'll start with one, which is logical access issues. Now, very simple. I'm not talking about physical access, which we've already discussed. That is biometrics and all is a physical issues. We are talking about logical. That means the only logical ways in which we enter is IDs and passwords. You know that. For different websites, for different logins, for different ERP systems, you have multiple login IDs and passwords. Now, mark my words, putting up right IDs and password the right place is the most critical thing out there. And avoiding putting up right passwords will get you into a problem wherein brute force attack or dictionary attacks, these are the words, mark my name, these are the words in your module, brute force or dictionary attack can be planned against you. Right IDs and password, that is right combination of passwords, alphanumeric, special character needs to be done. Now, whenever you are putting up the logical issues, now a small question, I request somebody or maybe Nidhi ji to answer. As an IS auditor, if you are entering into a premise for logical audit, for auditing of logical access issues, what is the first thing that needs to be taken care of? Fine. What comes up in your mind? Suppose I have appointed you as an IS auditor. What is the first thing you need to do in your IS audit? Fine. One is checking up whether the passwords are rightly being set or not, making sure that passwords are regularly changed or not, making sure employees are sharing the passwords or not, or is there something else which is more important? Let me answer because there's a time gap. There are situations in which active login IDs and passwords and active users in the company are not matching to each other, because company and HR people are not in a regular scene of deallocating the rights or stopping the credentials of those people who are not with the company anymore. Fine. So that's the first thing. See, finding out whether Saurabh is accessing something which is permitted to me or not is secondary option. First, you need to check whether Saurabh is allowed to access or not. So if I'm not a part of the company now, I might be a part of the company 2 years back. Today, I'm not a part of the company, but still my login credentials, my access privileges are still active, which is the most troublesome thing. So institute has asked this question some time back, that which is the topmost role that needs to be done, which is the topmost act that needs to be done by an IS auditor in the case of a logical access control. The first thing that needs to be checked is to make sure that active number of users in the company and active actual login credentials online should be the same. Any extra privileges or any extra user is an issue. Correct? So this is how you need to map. I'm not saying you need to apply logical, technical codings and all those things. Just an IQ, just a logical presence of your free mind in the examination is sufficient enough for solving your problems. Correct? So that is logical. So IDs and passwords, password policy, NDA, non-disclosure agreement. These are the policies that needs to be done, and implementing those policies will make sure that logical issues will be avoided. That is point one. Point two, logical control today should not be single factor authentication. Make sure if there is two-factor authentication, you are on a safer side. That is, only login IDs and password not sufficient. Maybe combine that with OTPs, combine that with thumb impression, fingerprint impression, and that will give you a more authenticated way out to enter into your systems. You have all seen into banking systems, SBI and PNB and all. So they have IDs and password. Apart from that, there is USB port wherein they have to thumb impress, put their thumb impression, and then only they get access. Because I can share the IDs and password with anyone, but obviously I cannot cut my thumb and share with someone. Correct? So avoid putting up single authentication mechanisms. Fine. That is two-factor or multi-factor authentication is what is required today. Third thing which is there in logical today is that systems today are capable enough to put your IDs and passwords. Systems, that is, if a system has been programmed, it can put IDs and passwords to systems and can log in on behalf of you. And that is the reason CAPTCHAs are there today to avoid bots. So today, if you are putting up an auditing system, make sure bots should be avoided. And for that, CAPTCHAs, formulas, image selection, and you know that you have been all into the scenario wherein you try to do something or the other to prove that you are a human in front of the system. Correct? So logical means these three things. If these three things are being taken care of, like right IDs and passwords, first. Second, two-factor authentication. Third, avoiding bots. That means the right person is entering into the systems. Now, whatever they are doing becomes a secondary part, but at least you have distracted people who have not a right individual or right authenticated individual to enter into the systems. Right? That is one thing. So obviously, I have discussed logical reasons and policies and controls also with you. Then talk about malicious codes. Now, malicious codes is very detailed mention here. I request participants out there to keep slight notes in for this section or maybe furthermore so that they can actually correlate. Now, malicious codes in your module are divided into multiple heads. Fine. What are the multiple heads? Virus, bomb, Trojan, bombs, ransomware, spyware. In that, virus are again of 4 types in your module. Fine. Bombs are again of 2 types in your module. So make sure you are not only aligned to basic terminologies, but further, because these further terminologies are more important from examination perspective. Right. So what is virus, worm, Trojan, bomb, ransomware, spyware? These all are malicious code developed by certain programmers and technically sound person only, but with a malicious intention, wrong intention to corrupt your system, snatch your data, bottleneck your network, or corrupt your data, or maybe spying on you that whenever you are putting up certain sensitive data, they will snatch your data out of it and they can later on create an impersonation attack against you. When it comes to viruses, viruses are of 4 types given in your module. One is, mark the words, polymorphic virus, stealth virus, master boot record virus, and 4th one is macro virus. Out of these 4, stealth virus is the most troublesome, most problematic virus because it hides itself from anti-malware software also and from operating system also. So detecting a stealth virus is the most problematic thing. Even most of the anti-malware software will not be able to detect stealth viruses. So institute has asked this question that out of these 4 viruses, which is the most complicated and problematic virus for the organization, without having any detail into that, stealth virus is the right answer. And which is the weakest virus? Macro virus is the weakest virus out of the 4 which are given in your module. So keep your knowledge only connected to the module. Do not search other things on ChatGPT and Bard, fine, and Google. Focus on modules, and institute is restricting themselves, and that's the best part of it. They are aligning themselves to the framework of Audible and nothing comes up outside the modules. Correct? Then comes bombs. Bombs are of 2 types, time bomb and logic bomb. And I think by default, the names is clear. Something is triggered on logic and something which is triggered on the time. So any bombs like date bombs, like Christmas Day bomb, or New Year Day bomb or Fool's Day bomb are obviously time bombs, and bombs which are connected to certain logic like clicking a file or deleting a file are known as logic bombs. Fine. But more or less, all these malicious codes and many more in the market can only be avoided or can only be taken care of by one particular control, which is known as what? Anti-malware software, which is commonly known as antivirus. So you have to make sure that right anti-malware, right antivirus software is there, and that is the only control which is there to avoid. And anti-malware software acts in all three manners. Mark my words, all three. It is preventive, detective, and corrective all. It prevents your systems. It detects any malicious code is present in your systems and try to correct also and remove that as well. So if somebody asks which is the primary role, now mark my words, I'm talking about which is the primary role of an anti-malware software, preventive, detective, corrective, or all of the above. Primary role.
Sir, it's a preventive.
It's preventive. It's not all. It says what are the roles of an anti-malware software. Then the third, all of the above should be the right answer. So please mark and read the question correctly. Make sure they are talking about the primary role or all roles. Answer will differentiate. Although the question and option will remain the same. It's just a changing of one word, which forces you to change the answer. Correct? That is one. Second, that is malicious code and anti-malware software is the answer for it. Then come the data leakage. I'll come directly to the tool because data leakage is a common problem in an organization. And sensitive data leakage is the most troublesome issue wherein suppose there is an intellectual property of mine or a patent documentation or patent formula or maybe Coca-Cola, I am a Coca-Cola head and I have a Coca-Cola formula for it. The leakage of that particular thing can create a challenge. So whenever there is a possible data leakage, make sure you are putting up the controls, which is known as what? Cryptographic controls. So all your important data must be encrypted first. Then only it has to be stored, shared over the network. Otherwise, don't do it. And for that, you know there are symmetric crypto systems and asymmetric crypto systems. Both are there. Symmetric is only one key, which is known as public key. And when it comes to asymmetric, we are talking about combination of two keys, which is private and public key, also known as public key infrastructure, which is commonly been used by a chartered accountant in the format of digital signatures. Correct? So make sure symmetric and asymmetric related things are known to you. Primary and public key combinations are known to you. I expect at least 4 to 5 questions come from this particular aura, which is private and public key infrastructure, asymmetric crypto systems, and all those things. So don't go here and there. Just read 2 pages which are there in your module, align to asymmetric and symmetric crypto systems, public key infrastructure, and asymmetric. That's it. Just read those things. Question will come from those lines only here and there. Do not read from, and although you don't have time to read a lot of things at this point of time. Then comes flow of unwanted data. Another bigger problem is that in organization, suppose you are running a chartered accountancy firm, not suppose, obviously you are doing that. Fine. You have a problem that people in your company, staff in your company are accessing YouTube or accessing certain Facebooks or maybe watching certain movies on Netflix, Hotstar, or doing some sort of social engineering or socializing work. To avoid those type of websites and those content, you can put up right firewall into that. So unwanted flow of data can be controlled by implementing and configuring a right firewall. Now, firewall is a boundary control. Mark my words, firewall is a boundary control. It is not implemented primarily within the company. It is primarily being used when you are migrating and connecting to certain network which is outside your organization. Intranet is being connected to outside work. Then only you need filter mechanism, because then only the unwanted flow of data can actually hamper your business operations. So when it comes to firewall, in your module itself and in your syllabus, there are 4 different types of firewall which are given. I'm just putting up the name for your reference. Packet filter firewall, application level firewall, stateful inspection firewall, and proxy firewall. Make sure that these terminologies are known to you. Fine. And for these 4 firewalls, there are 3 ways to implement the firewall. Now I'm repeating myself. I'm talking about there are 4 firewalls, but there are 3 ways to implement the firewall. And 3 ways are single homed firewall implementation, dual homed firewall implementation, and third is screened subnet, screen subnet firewall implementation. Out of this, the third one is the most critical and typical firewall implementation, which will give you the highest level of controls, not the first and the second one. Correct? that is related to firewall, make sure that firewalls are not only being configured once, you need to upgrade and configure on the regular basis. So institute may ask, what is the auditor role in firewall? Because auditor role is to make sure that logs in the firewall are monitored properly. And if there is any data or anything which is being moving inside the network, which needs to be blocked out. So auditor has a responsibility to notify the, mark my words, notify the firewall administrator to upgrade. You are not supposed to modify the firewall. You are not supposed to upgrade the firewall. You are only supposed to notify to the right individual that what needs to be done with the firewall configuration. Correct? That is for unwanted flow of data. Boundary control, firewall can be configured nicely. Achha, firewall is of two types. One is hardware-based firewall, one is software-based firewall. Fine. Software firewalls comes up by default with most of the softwares, anti-malware software. So you have your Windows firewall with Windows Defender. Quick Heal comes up with the firewall, and this Norton, McAfee comes up with their own firewalls as well. Apart from that, you can have a hardware firewall as well, which is actually a hardware plus software, which can be purchased from market, installed with your server, and it will take care of the firewall. Because see, when it comes to server, only software firewall may not be sufficient enough. You need a dedicated device which can act as a firewall. So there you can have that particular firewall. Fine. Okay, then comes the fifth point, which is intruders. Now, you know, another bigger problem all over the world when it comes to internet, it was hacking coming in, hackers coming in. Now, let me tell you, actually, who are hackers? Hacker is somebody who has penetrated into your system and successfully able to penetrate in your system. Now, suppose there are controls. There are controls implemented and I try to attack your system, but I was not successful. So I will be only an attacker. I will not be a hacker. I'll become a hacker once I'll able to breach your controls and enter your system. So the differentiation between attacker and hacker. Attacker is somebody who's trying. Hacker is somebody who is being successful in breaching your systems or entering into your systems. So whenever there is a possibility, obviously your controls have been broken down. So preventive controls have not been worked out. Now what is next best possible after prevention is detection. So what you can do is that you can implement IDS, which is intrusion detection system. So whenever the word called IDS comes up, mark my thing, it is not a preventive control, it's a detective control. And this particular control has been implemented to avoid or to deter unlawful activities. Again, mark the words, unlawful activities. If it is unlawful activities identified on your network, IDS will detect and inform the top management that this is unlawful activities which is identified. What needs to be done is management roles. IDS has done a role because IDS ka kaam sirf detection hai. It's nothing related to prevention, is nothing related to correction and all. Okay. Then there are certain small issues like impersonation. And impersonation happens when your photographs, your identifications, your login credentials have been taken by somebody else, and somebody else is positioning and presenting themselves as a genuine user. That is called impersonation. I am expecting at least 2 questions from the impersonation side this year. And in your module 5, there is a paragraph or there is an entire list where impersonation mechanisms are there. So what is impersonation? What are the different ways in which impersonation can happen? There are multiple ways, or around 6-7 different ways are there in which impersonation can actually happen. Please read one word. Those are self-explanatory content. You can read one word and identify, okay, this is the ways of impersonation, and anything. Instead, which of the following is not a way for impersonation, which is the following is a way for impersonation. So it's just a keyword recall sufficient enough to answer. Apart from that, they can put up a definition and ask this definition represent to which way for impersonation. So only understanding and logic will make that particular thing happen. So just read that. I'm expecting 2 questions to come up minimum because that's a trend. Then come denial of service or distributed denial of service, which is in a small term known as DOS or DDoS. Distributed denial or denial of service. That means a genuine person is being stopped. Mark my words, a genuine person is being stopped to enter into the network because the network was bottlenecked, network was jammed, or network was being diverted to some other useless network by an attacker. So suppose you and me are a genuine user, we are having right credentials, right permission to access the network, but still when we are trying to do it, we are not being granting the privilege, although we are being diverted or shifted to somebody else, that something else, that is not denial of service, or the network has been bottlenecked by certain junk data and we are unable to do that. Fine, which happens to chartered accountants very frequently, which in last dates when you are trying to file up your income tax returns and all, even after having credentials and all, system does not permit you to log in. It's because there is over flooding of data. The data is over flooded, the network is jammed, the server capacity is being exhausted, and that is the reason denial of service happens. And this denial of service can be exploited by some attacker in their own personalized manner, in which they can actually hamper, temper, and modify our data and can create certain impersonation issues also to us. So make sure those things should be avoided. And in your module, there are multiple ways of distributed and denial of service given, which is network flooding, right? Something which is known as ping to death. That's a word, ping to that, which is also a denial of service attack. There is something called zombies, which can also be used for denial of service attack. So these 2-3 words are connected, and mark my word, these are important terminologies to be recalled on. Out of denial of service and distributed denial of services, difference between these two is that denial of service attack can be planned by a single individual, by a single person using a single device. But if multiple people are simultaneously putting up this attack and it becomes multiple devices parallelly working for denial of service, it becomes even more problematic and troublesome for a defender or for an auditor to identify from where it is being occurring. So distributed denial of service attack is even more troublesome as compared to denial of service attack. So DDoS is more issues and more problematic or more intensified problem as compared to DOS. Correct? Then come next, that is SQL, structured query language injection, SQL injection. Now SQL injection is a small way out in which a database breach, mark my words, I'm talking about database breach, can happen. With an SQL injection, an attacker can actually directly enter into your database part. So just a single line of code or a programmer putting up avoiding SQL injection related attacks can be a simple coding can be done to avoid that. But again, if a question comes up, which of the following is an attack which can be programmed or planned against the database directly? So SQL injection is the right answer for that. It's only and only a database related thing which allows an attacker to enter into your database and do some sort of tampering or modification to that without the permission given to them. Then comes website defacement. That is the possibility in which the websites can be defaced or modified, or which you already know most of the time that Pakistani attackers and hackers defame our government of India websites and all, put some sort of nonsense content out there on the front page so that they can actually defame. So defacement and website morphing, these are the common ways out in which a logical problem can create and defame the organization identity or the government identity in a strategic manner. Apart from that, social engineering, you know that engaging socially, or maybe suppose you and me are connected to certain social media platforms wherein you don't know me, still I was a part of your friend list. I can ask certain questions, what you do, where you live, what are your contact details, what are your present. So this personal information can be given to you, given by you to me, and I can utilize that information for some or the other nonsense purposes. So avoid social engineering, and for that, make sure that engagement of people in the organization should not be socially open up when they are working, and apart from that, their engagement should be restricted in such a manner that privacy and important thing of an organization should not leak out from an employee to their social networking platforms. Is that clear? So making up the policies, implementing these controls on a very stringent and focused basis, that is the role of an IAS auditor. The role of an IAS auditor is not to develop the controls. You are not here to develop the controls. You are here only to identify which control is suitable in what situation, making sure that right team is implementing those controls, and you are just there to check whether the efficacy of the controls is there or not, and the risk which has been identified by you is being mitigated or reduced or eliminated to a level which is acceptable by you. Is that clear? So there are multiple logical controls. I think I have discussed most of them in a detailed manner, and I think I was slightly slow into talking about all these things. Fine. Now let me go back. Fine. So that was related to on the basis of nature. We have discussed all 5 things, correct? On the basis of nature, all 5 controls are issues are being discussed. Now I'm talking about second, that is on the basis of application. So input, process, and output. These are the core. These are the core application issues. That is input problems, processing problem, and output problems. Apart from that, these are the 2 supportive things. That is boundary and storage. These are also connected to application, but these are supportive issues. Fine, we have put up all these 4 things. I think Siri sir have discussed that because that's a primary part of your module 3, wherein boundary, input, process, output, and storage control or storage risk can be discussed on. And I'll just brief it out. And one particular answer from your side will let me know that whether you have been aligned to that or not. Please tell me what exactly is what is known as, just hold on, I just forgot the name. When the data get tampered before the data is entered into the systems. Can you name this particular term? I am entering the data into the system, but I have intentionally or unintentionally tampered the data and the wrong data is entered into the system. What this particular issue will be known as? Have you heard about a word called data diddling? Diddling means changing the data. That's an input problem. Fine. So similarly, there are multiple typical words. So what is exception handling? What is error exception file? Fine. That is processing control. Fine. Output, what is spoofing? Sorry, spooling. Spooling is a output control. So make sure these typical words are connected to you. And for reading all these things, refer to module 3, chapter 4. Module 3, chapter 4 is only connected to input, process, and output, which is good enough. For boundary, which boundaries are we talking about? Logical boundaries or physical boundaries out here? Logical or physical? We're talking about application. So obviously these boundaries are logical boundaries, not physical boundaries. Completely logical boundaries, right? So obviously logical boundaries comes up with IDs and passwords. Your firewall is a logical boundary control. Your cryptography is a logical boundary control. So make sure whenever we are talking about this, we are just changing the classification. Mark my words, we are just changing the classification. The risk will remain the same. Earlier it was physical risk, physical boundaries were separate, logical boundaries were separate. But when you classify them on the basis of boundaries, physical and logical comes up in totality to comes up boundaries. But here, as we are talking about application only, so we are only focusing on which boundary? Logical boundary, not the physical boundaries. Correct? So all these will have a reason, all these will have an impact, and all these will have a policies and control. Please refer to chapter 3, module 3, chapter 4 for this particular part. Fine. I'm immediately going toward the third thing, which is on the basis of resources. Again, this is an important part to be discussed on. From the entire information system point of view, there are only 5 components: hardware devices, software, database, network, and human. These are only 5 components which are there for developing any information system. Any business automation system works on only 5 components. There has to be some computer, servers, and devices, networking equipments like switches, router, gateways, and cablings and all. Database, obviously holding the data. Softwares on which you are working, it classify both the software, system software and application software, and human, which are people who are working. Everything is a resource for making sure that organization is able to work on an information system very effectively. So I've tried to classify the things in a very specific manner for you. And if you want, you can take a snapshot for this as well for your purpose. Just hold on. I think my presentation has become off for you. Just sharing it again. Just confirm, is it visible or not?
Ashok sir? Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yes, fine. Great.
Ashok
Fine.
sir, kindly confirm.
So from the resources side, please understand, I have just put up the risk out here. I think controls and all, you already know. So what are hardware risk? What is software risk? What is database? What is human? And what is networking risk are all stated out here. So wrong data entered into system. That is data diddling, I have already told you. Fine. Leakage of data, which we have tried to avoid with putting up cryptographic controls. Tampering of data, putting up right user's ID so that people are not putting up the entire data and modifying the data. No. Suppose I have put up the data, I am not authorized to modify the data. Modification should come with somebody else. Approval should come by somebody else. So segregation duties, person should not have 0 to infinite all privileges all at once. Fine, no overlapping. This is all is being related to that. Software bugs, malicious code we have discussed, privacy issues we have discussed. So make sure these are hardware, software. Again, we are reclassifying the risk will remain the same. It's just a different way of classification from the basis of resources. So what are hardware risk? What is software risk? What is database risk? Human resource risk and network risk. In networks, this is something which I need to talk on because I'm expecting some question to come from this part, which is called protocol of laws. You know that when it comes to computers and networks and all, without protocols, network cannot operate. And there are multiple protocols like HTTP, FT protocol, SMTP protocol, post office protocol, and multiple protocols are there. So technically, you as an individual, as an IS auditor, from the examination perspective, try to classify the protocol into 2 heads, 2 classifications. One is normal protocol, another one is secure protocols. And make sure whenever you are talking about financial data and all, from the information system point of view, secure protocols is what is required to be implemented. And secure protocols means not HTTP, it is HTTPS. Not FTP, it has to be SFTP. Not MIME protocol, it has to be SMIME protocol. Then other protocols like secure socket layer, secure shelling, which is SSH, SSL, TSL, transaction secured layer. These are the things that needs to be implemented. So your question which I am expecting from this side is that you can expect some protocol related question wherein secure and unsecure related protocol definition can come up, or else a protocol can be there and you need to make sure that what is the right definition, or definition is there, you just align that what is the role of a protocol. SSL and TSL is what I am expecting the institute should ask, because today the most bigger or troublesome problem all around the world is breach of data over the network. So if a website, if an application is being using TSL or SSL protocol, the possibility of data being leaking out and going into the wrong hands get reduced multifold, because it has been encrypted because before it is being moving on a public domain. So it's very similar to when you put up your credit card information on an Amazon website and trying to buy out something, you should be worried about that if my credit card information gets opened up, including your CVV number and everything, there is a breach possible. But on the other side, if you can check it out on the same website, it is SSH or SSL, which has already been working out. You should take a deep breath out. No, the website is safe because it is working on a safe protocol. So always try to make sure this is an important thing from the auditor perspective. At the same time, the institute can ask certain question from it. In your module 5, last chapter, there are 2 pages on which secure and unsecure related protocol details are mentioned. SMIME is there, HTTPS is there, SSL, SSH, and TSL. These 3 terminologies are mentioned out there. Make sure you have read these out, and basic identification or basic knowledge of these things is there in your mind. Only logic, don't get into detail, mark my words. The logic is more important and sufficient enough for solving your questions and clearing these up. Fine. That is another category which is on the basis of resources. Okay. I'm again going back. The last classification which has been left out to us is on the basis of business. I'm just recalling it, or we have classified 4 on the basis of nature, on the basis of application, on the basis of resources, and on the basis of business. Now, when on the basis of business, obviously every department has their own risk. So strategy department, marketing department, financial department, operational department, technical department, every department has their own reasons and has their own impact of risk. Make sure that you should classify, you can classify risk on the basis of business as well and can mitigate them out. Now here I'll ask one question. Now out of these 4, which is the best way out to choose? Which is the best classification? Technically, there is nothing called best. Whichever is suitable for you, whichever is suitable for you and your management, whatever has been aligned between you and management to classify, that is the best way out. But technically speaking, most of the companies all around the world are using the classification we have done on the basis of nature. That is physical, environmental, logical, administrative, and legal risk. That is the most used class. But yes, other classification can also be used and implemented as and when required. Right? So that is classification of risk. Now I'm coming back to this and I'm just putting up 2 things in front of you. One is what we have done. We have done these 2 things and created a document called IAR, Information Asset Register. We have done 3 and 4 and we have come up with the risk classification. Now after risk classification is done and assets are identified, what is required? The requirement is to go for risk assessment. And that was being told to you by Shri sir. That's asset identification. That is the risk control matrix you have created. You have put up the threat, the asset, the risk, the impact, the probability, right? And then you put up the right controls and make sure after putting up the controls, what is the residual risk? That is what has been discussed by sir in terms of that risk control matrix. Now I'm coming to that. Risk assessment is important. That is what has been done. So risk assessment is what you can do it: vulnerability assessment, probability, exposure, and impact. And for doing all this, you can use 2 ways out. One is qualitative, another one is quantitative. Now, qualitative has to be used in a small organization wherein small group of individuals are there within which you can have a consensus opinion on something. Whereas if you are looking forward for a larger organization wherein people have different opinions and they may be located at different locations and all, and consensus opinion cannot be built up. Quantitative approach is what to be preferred on the priority basis, because this will give you a figurative assessment that if the damage is going to happen, the damage will worth 10,242 rupees. So anything lesser than that can be a control implemented for you. So don't prefer qualitative, quantitative should be the preferred one. But if you are having a small organization, only 4 of you are there, I think there is no way out you should go for quantitative. In between 4 of you can have a consistent opinion which risk needs to be mitigated first. So only purpose of doing this assessment is to make sure that, see, every risk is not an equal risk for you. Every asset is not an equal valuable asset for you. You cannot have the similar kind of security for Nidhi ji as you are having it for Mr. Modi, because both of the individual have a different role to play and different importance for the country. Correct? So obviously controls are different. So assessment is important, which particular individual is at what category, which individual needs to be, or which asset needs to be protected more, valuable more, and all those things. So for risk assessment, vulnerability, that is weakness into your own system. Probability, that is risk, probability of risk occurrence. Exposure, how much your asset is being exposed to that particular risk. And if the risk occurs on you, what could be the impact? And if you are able to identify these 4 things in a quantitative manner, that is some other figures are there for you, I think there is no way out you will be able to put up the right controls in the right place. But again, before putting up the controls, what is next important thing is that even after assessment, you might have 100 risks which you have classified out here. You might have 100 assets you have done here. When you go for risk, there can be 100 into 100. That is these number of combinations are there. If these combinations are there, you cannot have random putting up controls. What is more important next is that risk ranking and risk prioritization, so that you know what is the most important risk for you at that point of time and right controls are placed in. So make sure risk ranking, risk prioritization, heat map. There are 3 words given in your module. All 3 words are same. All 3 words are same. Do not get confused yourself. Risk ranking is different, prioritization different, and heat map is different. The example in front of you is a heat map in which anything which is on the red side needs to be mitigated first, because that's a significant and severe risk. Anything on the low side can be left out. And if you are not putting up the controls on this also, there is no major impact. But if you miss up the controls on the red part, I think the impact is much bigger. So classifying the risk or maybe categorizing the risk on the basis of ranking and prioritization is equally important for you. Correct? And now here, I'll just refer to what Shirish sir might have given, is a risk control matrix chart for your reference. Just hold on. I hope you can see that. Fine, in which suppose I put up an asset, threat, vulnerability, impact, likelihood, risk, and control. So if there is a server, which is an asset for you, what is threat? Because of overheating in the server room, the server can fail. So obviously impact could be, or threat is very high threat. What is the weakness and vulnerability? That my AC in the server room is not working perfectly. It's a 10-year-old. It's not cooling down the server and temperature can rise to an emergency level and all. What is the impact? If a server has been crashed down, I think you can not be able to send your mail, the processing, the database can all fail. And that is 3 hours. Now, for a company, for a bank, for an institution, 3 hours can be a good amount of time in which their credibility and business can happen. So likelihood has been rated as a high. Risk, potential losses of $50,000. So obviously for saving your $50,000 per occurrence, you can invest $3,000 for putting up the new air condition in the room. So obviously when the quantum of the effect is 50,000 and the control is available for 3,000, you can always put up the control. But if it could have been reversed, the impact is of 3,000 and the control is for 50,000. Are you going to put that control? No. And this can only happen when you are going in a quantitative manner. Mark my words, qualitative manner will not give you such precise solutions. Similarly, suppose if you talk about again another asset, server. Read the point number 3, server. Now natural disaster, flooding. Flooding hoga, it can be a bigger problem. But what is the probability? Because our server is in the 3rd floor. So probability of water reaching to the 3rd floor is very low. Right? So because this is very low, no action is needed for that. Can you see it out? Recommendation, the last part, no action is required. Is that clear? So try to make sure these kind of risk control matrix are going to helpful for you, and this can only be prepared when you have done a good 8-step process. So we have done up till 6. 7th is putting up the right controls at the right place. Correct? Now, when it comes to 6th, I'm not putting up the control because controls have already been discussed out here. I'm just putting up what are important terminologies here. So read the terminology. Aggregation of risk. Risk scenario. See, one risk can only happen in one scenario. That's a misconception. Fine. Earthquake can be of 4 magnitude. It can be of 7 magnitude. And both of them are going to have a different impact on you. Fine. Fire in a washroom and fire in a server room. Virus attacking your database or virus attacking your network is a different impact altogether. So you cannot have one scenario solution for all. So create scenarios. One risk, one solution is not the right way out. One risk, multiple scenarios, and solution for each and every scenario is the right approach. Risk turn down. Suppose some risk is not occurring on you. Fine. Although you have 10 offices, one of the offices is located at Chennai, another one is in Mumbai, another one is in Jammu Kashmir, another one is in Sahara Desert. Now, obviously, when there's a problem of high heat, Sahara can be a challenge for you. But on the other side, if there is a tsunami issue, obviously there is no possibility of tsunami in Sahara. The tsunami can only happen on a Chennai seashore office. So if the tsunami cannot happen in your Sahara, turn down that particular risk. Don't talk about any controls in your Sahara. But same problem can be controlled and can be mitigated and needs to be considered in your Chennai seashore office, whereas Chennai seashore will not talk about what? High temperature issues. So turn down of risk, risk avoidance, risk mitigation, risk transfer, risk tolerance. Again, this has been discussed previously as well. I'm not going to repeat those things, but I'm just recalling that make sure these terminologies are known to you. And out of these, last terminology for which I'm expecting a question this year. Now, why I'm expecting this question? Do not ask this question to me, okay? I'm expecting only because my sixth sense tells me risk appetite related questions can come up, because appetite is something which is misunderstood by many individuals. Appetite is my financial bearing capacity. What is the amount of loss? Mark my amount of loss or quantum of loss I can bear if there is a risk which has been successfully occurred on me. So suppose I can bear 10,000 rupees. That means this is my appetite capacity. Your appetite and my appetite can be different. On the same risk, you can appetite and you can digest 1 lakh rupees. But for me, even 10,000 plays a very. So appetite is something which I feel like it's misunderstood. And institute only asks questions for certain topics which are by default confusing and all. So risk appetite, risk tolerance, make sure these terminologies are known to you. You have just read single line from this particular slide, sufficient enough for you to grab the logic for it. Okay. So I'm moving ahead, but if you want, I can share this presentation at the later part. Then there are a few more things, that is risk register. Now mark my words, that is very important documentation to be prepared on. Why is risk register is important? Because if you are preparing risk register on a continuous basis, let's take an example. Suppose I have been asked to audit a system in 2020, in 2021, 22 and 23 again. If I'm preparing a risk register, by 24, 25, 26, I'll be able to figure it out that what is the way in which the risk is changing its nature, whether it is increasing trend or decreasing trend. If the risk is on an increasing trend, obviously I need to intensify my control on a proportional basis. If risk is in a decreasing trend, obviously I need to reduce my intensity of the control on a gradual basis. So without detailedly analyzing every time, risk register is something which will give you a clear-cut perception for it. So make sure risk register is important, and risk register is also been used or pronounced as risk profiling, because risk register will give you what? The profiling of a risk. So make sure these two terms are connected to you and you are aligned to that. Okay. So putting up the controls, make sure that we are putting up right controls, whether preventive, detective, corrective. That is the category of controls you have already been discussed, and aggregation, transfer of risk, mitigation of risk, avoidance of risk. These are the terminologies which I have just told you. Make sure you have gone through those. Correct. Now, after this particular thing, one thing which needs to be done is make sure that you are doing this on the regular basis. That is called security review or risk audit. Because not one-time controls are going to serve your lifetime purpose. Risks keeps on changing. They keep on intensifying or reducing over a period of time. At the same time, your assets keeps on changing the valuation. An asset which was a very sensitive asset just 2 days before, it can be a public asset today. So you might be putting up Z level of security at 5 days before. Today it becomes a normal person. So you are not removing, or you are completely removing the security. Fine. So you try to adjust those things on the regular basis. So make sure audits and security review is an ongoing process. And in that, there is a keyword which is known as residual risk. And there is another keyword which is known as penetration testing, or in short form known as what? VAPT. I hope you have heard about this word, or pen test. So make sure pen test or penetration testing or VAPT is the same term. An auditor is responsible to identify through penetration testing, pen testing or VAPT that what is the residual risk. And mark my words, if the residual risk is above what level? Acceptance level. That means more and more controls needs to be suggested from your side to reduce the risk to come below acceptable level. So always make sure that residual risk should fall under acceptance level, and acceptance level must be pre-decided as per the policy of the organization by the governance team in consultation with Chief Security Officer of the organization. As an IS auditor, your responsibility is to make sure residual risk is under the acceptable level. If it is above the acceptable level, you have to suggest controls, make sure those controls are implemented, audit again, and this cycle keeps on continuing until risk comes under acceptable level. Okay, I think last line is sufficient for you to understand that. Correct? So this covers up your module 5, which is related to risk control metrics. We have discussed almost all possible risks and controls connected to that. Now, considering the time constraints, I think it's only 15 minutes left with me. So can I rush up, or maybe because emerging technologies is something which I do not want to miss it out. 7-8 questions, which is very direct and very specific. I think that is pretty much required. So I'm slightly increasing my pace, changing the gear from second, third to directly 6th gear. We are talking about 6 emerging technologies out here, which is artificial intelligence, data analytics, cloud computing, RPA, robotic process automation, IoT, and blockchain, which are in your syllabus. Be very specific and make sure that whatever is there in my slide, you are known to that. What is AI? AI is simulating the human capabilities. Just a simple word. Why AI is important? Because today we know that repetition is very troublesome for us. Nobody of us wants to do repetitive clerical task, right? We want to add intelligence to the devices so the devices become smarter, and as a human we have more free time for our me time, for our family time, for our upskilling, rather than doing same clerical work, Excel filing and all those things on a regular basis. We want to make sure there is a progressive learning algorithm, which is actually a machine learning or deep learning concept, which is letting the machine will learn with time. So as a human matures with time, as you say that you are from a normal chartered accountant to become a professional, or FCA, from ACA to FCA. So if the device has been working for 15 years, it's not like doing same thing. It is 15-year experience device. So that is machine learning and deep learning concepts connected to that. They will be able to deep dive into the data. That is the USP. As an individual, as a person, as a chartered accountant, as a professional, how much data can you compile in your mind or on your systems? Very small amount of data. If I'll ask you, you need to compile 100 years of data and come up with a solution. You say that is possible, but you have to give me 1 month time for compiling 100 years of data, or maybe more than that. But system just needs few hours or few minutes to compile 100 years of data and can come up with that. And AI is helpful in that, right? Incredible accuracy. As a human, we always talk about what? Approximation. Approximately the valuation of the company will be 100 CR. In accuracy, it can be 99.8 CR, which is what is required today for valuation purpose, for investment purpose, and all those things. AI can give you that. Fine. And at the same time, most out of data. Because when it comes to a lot of data being there and AI applied to data analytics, I think it can create hidden patterns into that. And identifying hidden patterns is what is required for creating a new startup idea, for creating a new business model for you, or identifying certain problems much advanced in the market so that you are ahead of your competitors and your competitive battleground. So AI is important because these all factors are important. Make sure the keywords which I have identified, which I have highlighted for you, you must be able to know that. I am putting up that again in front of you. A repetitive clerical task, add intelligence to devices, progressive learning, and this is leading to a machine learning and deep learning concepts. Deep dive into the data, get most out of data, and incredible accuracy. Fine. Types of AI. Again, there are 3 types of AI. Again, I'm expecting 1 or 2 questions from this particular topic. Weak AI, general AI, and super AI. As of now, or maybe 10 years, 20 years down the line, we will be only falling into this narrow AI function. And just to tell you, as of now, we are just talking about, okay, there is a driverless car, and Elon Musk, or what do you say, Tesla as a company is creating $1 billion, $1 billion company just on a word called driverless car. Now tell me, in the entire day, you do more intellectual work rather than a driverless car. And driverless car, if come up with a multi-million-dollar idea, I think other works is an equal important. So it's only weak AI in which we are working out. We are not able to make sure we are having a financial company wherein a chartered accountant is being replaced by an AI-enabled device which is doing the entire work of a chartered accountant. We are still unable to replace a 10,000 rupees car driver. Obviously, a chartered accountant cannot be replaced. So it's only narrow AI which we are into, and we will be flourishing into that only. General and super AI is completely an hypothetical concept as of now. And if we expect something to happen, nothing will happen before 50 years at this point of time. We are only working in weak and narrow AI level. Whatever is being done on the backend side can be a research mode, but something comes up in the market is only weak and narrow AI. So make sure weak, general, and super AI must be known to you. Weak AI is what we are into. General AI is comparable to a human, and super AI is comparable to superhuman, like your Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man, right? What are the advantages? What are the concerns? What are the challenges? And what are the governance controls? I've just nutshelled them in a single slide. And I think you all know AI today. You must be using all these tools in a very regular basis. So advantages are error reduction, difficult exploration, daily applications, no breaks, repetitive tasks and all. Concern, high cost. And that is a conception. Humans will not be replicated. It's just a job shift. And that is better because we want to get rid of repetitive tasks and want to get into more of intellectual tasks. Then come original creativity cannot come up with an AI devices, and that's a clear-cut reason that humans can come up with a new idea for a startup. You cannot expect an AI device to come up with a startup idea and can execute that. Challenges are very specific. Data privacy, which is very important. One-track mindset, probability, trust on the devices is very critical. Suppose you are lying on an operation table and there is a doctor. Remove the doctor, you put a robot out there. You will die there itself, because you do not want to get operated from a robot, because you trust on humans much better. So trusting is a very critical issue. We do not trust on devices completely because they works on one track mindset. That's all. Governance. So whenever you are implementing AI, there has to be a strong procedures, policies, governance mechanism, ethical issues to be taken care of in a specific manner. Then only you can talk about implementation of AI specifically. So I've nutshelled everything out there in just 2 slides for AI. I'm jumping to cloud computing. Again, I'm expecting 2 questions to come from this particular part as well. I don't feel I'll be able to cover up all 6 topics out here because of time constraint. But anyway, cloud computing. Now today, this is the most important concept which is rightly available for implementation. Almost everybody of us is using cloud computing some or the other manner. Now, when it comes to cloud, advantages and concerns are directly known to you. I am jumping to something which is known as private, public, community, and models of clouding. So focus on what are the types of cloud. There are only 4 types of cloud and 3 models of cloud. 4 types is private cloud, that is developed by the company, maybe within the company's IT team or maybe outsourced IT team, but to be used only by the company only. That is private clouding. Private clouding is safe, reliable, but expansion possibilities are less. Entire load of development, controls, management is to be taken care by you. It cannot be given to someone else. On the other side, when you talk about public cloud, public is what Google and Amazon are giving to us. AWS is a public cloud. We put our data to there, we put our application, you do on e-commerce business out there, that's public cloud. In the public cloud, neither the setup, management, security, operations, upgradation is your headache. You are only focusing on a core business operation. Rest, everything has been taken care by the cloud service provider. Now, mark words and convert cloud service provider. Then comes community cloud, that is few individuals. Suppose you, how many chartered accountants are there right now? Yeah, Nidhi, ma'am, anything to say?
Saurabh, I would like to request that you can take 10 minutes extra if you it is available with you. And please cover this topic in detail. So because it's a very important topic and even audience are requesting.
Fine, I'll try to cover up as much as possible. Don't worry.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. So by 9:10 you can end your session. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
But in that case, the Q&As, whatever is you are compiling out there, how will you be able to handle those Q&As as well?
There are not much questions right now. So kindly cover this module.
I'll cover the topic because I know logic is more important than discussing Q&As.
Exactly.
Fine. So community cloud, suppose as of now, right now, suppose you are 100 chartered accountants and everybody of you feel like you need to have a cloud for yourself, but individually you cannot afford the private cloud, and because of your data security, you do not want to move to public cloud. So what is the best possible option for you? Yes, there's an option wherein you 100 groups up together, fund like crowdfunding and all, putting up small money and creating a cloud environment for you, hundreds only. So developed by you, used by you, confined to you, not being open to public. And yes, cost, complexity, risk is all being shared by all of you. That is known as community cloud. So a lot of banks, a lot of institutions, a lot of corporates are actually using community cloud for their internal operations, not going for private because that is not cost effective, not going for public because that is going to be risky for them. And any combination of private, public, and community can be termed as a hybrid clouding. So you develop your cloud and you hand over 2 or other clients also to manage, use your services as well. Only 2 clients, not to everyone. So it becomes a hybrid clouding model. That is types of cloud. Then comes models of cloud, that is IaaS, Ask, PaaS, and SaaS. And for explaining these things, I think this particular chart will solve the purpose. I am putting a private cloud that is managed, developed, and set up by the company. And these are what? Public clouds. Now you can clearly see In private cloud, everything, whether it is networking, storage, server, virtualization, OS, data, and all, it is being responsibility of the customer. That is in as individual my responsibility. So I am setting up the server or clouding environment for me. When it comes to public cloud, you can see the reduction on your responsibilities. This is your responsibility. This is your responsibility. When it comes to software service, you hold no responsibility. Entire thing is being done by someone else. Are you responsible for your Facebook? Are you creating your backup, storage, application security? No. Facebook is a software service which is giving you that particular possibilities. So application data, they are taking care of it. Virtualization, setup, everything they are taking care of it. You are just a user. Log in, do your work, log out. Everything is their responsibility. Gmail is software service. Are you worried about your security? Have you ever bothered whether your Gmail is being backed up or not? Have you ever bothered whether a particular server of Gmail is available for you for 24/7 or not? Have you ever bothered that if 15 GB get exhausted, is there extra GB available for you? Yes. You have to just pay it out. So you're not bothered for anything. So your Gmail, your Facebook, these all are software service. So see how we are reducing the responsibility of a customer in a gradual basis and increasing the responsibility of a service provider. And that is how as infrastructure service. So they are providing the infrastructure. You are not platform, they are even providing the platform, and software, they are providing everything, and you as a user are just using those services. So make sure IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS related services are known to you. SaaS is most common clouding option today, and we all are being using it from last around 5-7 years or so on a very regular basis. Very regular basis. You name an application today, actually you are using a SaaS services. Whether it is Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud, these are all providing SaaS services in a common manner to all of us. Right? Correct. So what are the challenges and what are the governance issues and risks and issues of this? I think I have put up all in nutshell for you. So failure, compromise, reliance, dependency on third-party service provider, that is important. Now, one clear-cut word is SLA. That is the only document which is binding two individuals. One is the cloud service provider and the customer. So having a very sound SLA, crafting this particular SLA and implementing SLA is the responsibility of IS auditor. Right? So make sure that cloud service provider and customer alignment is dependent on this particular documentation called service level agreement. Got it? Then comes important topic, which is data analytics. Large amount of data is being generated all over the world. Every time we put something, as of now also I am talking, we are talking about Zoom. Few are combining or joining this Zoom links. Somebody is leaving it out. It is all generating data. We send some messages, we communicate, we send an email, we search something on Google, we put something on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, and all, we are generating data. So with the large amount of data, obviously analytics is going to play the major important role for finding out the crux from it. This particular chart has been given in your module, and making this chart in your mindset will solve at least a couple of questions going to be asked from data analytics point of view. 14 question minimum will be there from this particular module. And 14 question, major question will be from cloud and data, because these are the most talked about and obviously most detailed topic also as well. So data analytics, descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive, and cognitive. These are the 5 types of data analytics. 4 are discussed here. 1 I'll take it later on. So descriptive is what happened, why it had happened. So it is on past, on future, based on past. So you talk about which data, you can check it out. Historical data is helpful for you. And for doing it, you are using standard reports, ad hoc queries, statistical analysis, and graphical analysis. This is descriptive. So when you approach a doctor, it talks about description. If your stomach is upset, if you are into fever, what had happened, what you have done. So all on historical data, past data and all. On the basis of a doctor prescribe you something, how to make it happen. What? From a patient to a normal person to a cured person. So how to make it happen? That is analysis plays a very important role. So doctor's intelligence, heuristic method, he's tried to optimize his knowledge because he offered different medicines for you and me because he's optimizing his knowledge and making sure we are aligned with that. That is prescriptive thing, aligned to each and every individual. Then comes predictive. What could have happened if this problem is going to continue? So you are forecasting the future based on futuristic event, presence and all. So forecasting, predictive modeling, simulation is going to help you out in predicting that particular future. And last come, which is the most commonly used today, or you can say which is the robust thing, which is required today, is what? Cognitive thing. That is related to intelligence. What to do and how. That is proactive actions. And for doing this only, we are using latest tools like AI, ML, neural network, deep learning, recognitions, patterns, and all those things. Correct? And in between, there is something called diagnostic. Diagnostic is what? Based on your reports. So you go with a medical doctor, he prescribed you need to test your blood reports, so blood report becomes a diagnostic part for it. Correct? So diagnostic is just analyzing the data and coming up with some sort of diagnosis from it. Diagnosis again based on past data, but it will come up with certain important information which is not directly visible, which is not directly understandable by you. But as of now, if something comes up, make sure you are, I'm just removing these again for you. Make sure these tools are known to you. Institute has asked, simulation has been used for what purpose? Now, if you're not aligned to this particular chart, I think you'll not be able to correlate. Simulation is predictive, not prescriptive, not descriptive, not cognitive. It is the predictive. So make sure you are aligned to these terms. Correct? So just recalling this particular chart will solve a major purpose for examination point of view. So just make sure the image of this chart is in your mindset for fast recalling. But what are the risks and challenges of data? Very clear cut. Privacy of data is the biggest challenge. And for this, I think if there is some question, either there is very randomly possible, but for your knowledge, Personal Data Protection Bill or Act crafted by government in 2019 is very important thing to make sure data privacy and confidentiality has been intact. I am not putting this from the examination perspective, but for the knowledge of you should be aware about Personal Data Protection Bill and Act to make sure what is data privacy and how this data privacy important. Again, for data, making sense out of it, completeness is important, integrity is important. Now, integrity is unwanted or unauthorized tampering of data should be prohibited. And for this, again, I'm going back, which is important, logical access control. So if right logical access controls are there, you have distributed right. Somebody is only able to read, somebody is only able to write, somebody is only able to modify. So putting up right controls will protect the data integrity, and unauthorized modification of data can be avoided. Compatibility issue can happen because I've already said there can be some sort of compatibility issue of hardware, software, and applications and all. Make sure audit staff is not competent. That means that's a risk and challenge for you. Insufficient, inappropriate evidences will create useless data for you. Now, whenever there's a data term, again, another important thing which can come up in the examination, data is classified into 3 heads: structured data, semi-structured data, and unstructured data. Make sure data analytics, if actually happening today with the data lakes as a term. I hope you are aware about data lakes. You are aware about term called big data. Okay, data lakes and big data comprises of data, which is what? Unstructured data. So it becomes very complex for a normal system or a normal individual to make sense of data which is unstructured data. Correct? So structured and semi-structured is a common process. Unstructured is what we are having today. And that is how data lakes and big data and today data analytic techniques and predictive and cognitive data analysis is important and aligned to that. So any insufficient, inappropriate data, any large volume data which is not making sense is a risk and challenge which can be avoided by making unstructured data making sense for you. And this can only happen when you are going for right analytics for it. Right? The third last topic is Internet of Things, IoT. Right, IoT is what? Sensors based. You all know that today we are surrounded by smart devices. You are wearing a smart watch, smart TV, smartphone, smart laptop, smart Alexa and Siri in your home, smart lights which are understanding your voice commands and all, or they can be operated, or smart ACs for which you are seeing that of Ranbir Kapoor and Deepika Padukone, or maybe Amitabh Bachchan, or maybe 2 kids talking about ceiling fan as a feeling fan or a ceiling fan. So you are all surrounded by IoT devices. Fine. So when it comes to IoT, we are talking about 2 words, which is Internet of Things. Things means devices. Things means component. Things means humans as well. And Internet means network. So when multiple devices, components, or humans are connected, some sort of network without, mark my words, without human to human or human to computer interaction. This is a very important word. No human involvement is required. Devices are communicating themselves within each other. Fine. That is why IoT is there. Your smartphone, you are not instructing your smartphone and smartwatch to communicate with each other. Once you have linked it out, they are sharing the data on its own. So there is no human to human involvement. So when it comes to IoT, there are certain benefits and challenges of IoT, which can be read directly from this particular slide. And thereafter, I just need to make sure that when it comes to IoT environment, sensors plays a very important role. So choosing the right sensors, security of sensors, whether it is motion sensor, sound sensor, fine, or a voice sensor, fine. These all are important sensors which are making that particular ecosystem important. And that's the reason Alexa is able to understand your voice, because it is having voice sensors. voice recognition sensors, and that is also known as, from AI perspective, natural language processing, because you are giving instruction in natural languages. Motion sensor, location sensors. Today you move from one city to another. It's IoT which is making sure that when you move from Delhi to Mumbai, your devices are automatically identifying your location and marking that you are in Mumbai. Your nearby restaurants and nearby hotels are being decided on the basis of that. So that's all because of IoT devices. And when it comes to IoT, IoT is leading to robotics, or you can say robotics is leading to IoT. But when it comes to robotics, there's a misconception that robotics and robotic process automation are same thing. No. Now that's the second last topic out here to be discussed. RPA is a software code. RPA is not a walking, talking robots. Fine. These are programs which replaces common human tasks. These are not machines which are processing paper. RPA is a cross-functional application wherein data of application coming from one can be moved to another one. It is not an AI device. Correct? So when you develop a process, like suppose today you have ATM machines, it's an robotic process automation, because earlier you need to go to a clerical counter and a person is sitting out there to process your document. You just go to an ATM machine which has been installed with a software. You do whatever things out there in a very seamless manner and your money comes out and you get your account details and everything out there. That is RPA. Fine. What is not is walking, talking robots. So very specific. A lot of companies today are actually implementing RPAs. Banks are implementing RPAs to reduce human efforts and make sure repetitive tasks can be shifted to devices, and devices can function more seamlessly, more speedily, and more accurately as compared to human without taking breaks and all. So this is robotic process automation. Last is blockchain, which is the talk of the hour today, that how blockchain is going to change the financial system and all. From your perspective, just focus on few things. I'm putting up the next slide for you. Just focus on three things. Blockchain is based on three technologies: peer-to-peer, public key infrastructure, and hash function. Make sure these three words are in your memory. Peer-to-peer, which is distributed ledger, which is not working. Blockchain is not working on client server. Blockchain is working on peer-to-peer network, which is distributed ledger. Public key infrastructure, which is making sure each and every block is being created, and once it is created, it is being encrypted as well. And every block will have a unique code like its own hash. That is because of miner. So once the block is created, a unique mining function or unique miner is there connected to that. Advantage of blockchain, a lot of more advantages are there, but concern, which is very obvious, you know that technology is a costly technology. It's a slow technology, or you can say it's a resource hungry technology. And that is the reason we are not using it. At the same time, compliance related to this technology has not been crafted by government, and that is the reason it is not being developed. So you need to know what are the concerns and advantages, and blockchain is something which is here to stay. Just focus on these three things. Make sure these should be there in our mindset. Find very specific which of the following is not a blockchain technology. Standing on three pillars: peer-to-peer, public key, and hash function. Correct? So that is what I am talking about. Module 6. Module 5 will not be able to cover up, but I am quickly taking to something which is important for last minute preparation, although it has been done by sir, but I am repeating to you with certain sort of time gap as well. So 204 hour, everybody knows it. I am putting up time frame for you. Make sure if you are following this particular timeline, it becomes easy for you to manage your questions. So 180 minutes at a maximum question, and this maximum should not be less than 130 questions. Should not be less than. Next 30 minutes, fill up the answers. First 180 minutes, only talk about question. Do not directly jump up and start making that black in your answer sheets. Next 30 minutes, only fill the answer sheet with full patience and full focus on it. Because what happens is that question number 3 ka answer, question number 4 mein mark ho gaya, entire blunder has happened. Now there is no way out. Nobody is going to handle your question. So 180 minutes for this, 30 minutes for this. Next 20 minutes, solve the remaining questions, but now on the real time basis. Mark the keys in the answer sheet there and there itself. And last 10 minutes is for Jai Mata Di. That means all question needs to be answered. Do not leave any question unanswered, because there is no negative marking. Fine. So last 10 minutes is Bhagwan ki kripa pe rahenge hum. Baki 230 minutes will be on your knowledge, logic, and whatever you have learned in your last 3, 6, 4 months of your DISA preparation, or maybe in last 3 hours with Shri sir and me. Okay. So over to you, Nidhi ma'am. I think we are well on time.
Thank you, Saurabh ji. And thank you for your coverage on module 4, 5, and 6, and imparting us an in-depth knowledge over risk management framework, logical risk and controls, and risk on resource and emerging technologies, and guiding our ESA aspirant for the coming exam. I must say that you have demonstrated exceptionally expertise over the subject matter. So, although I have just selected one relevant example, one relevant question for you. One of the audience, Mr. Aditya ji asked that from where he can get the mock test exam for exam paper preparation.
See, mock test papers are available at the institute website as well. Fine, you can download it from there itself. There are 7 mock test papers. And people feel like there is DISA 2 mock test papers may not be relevant for DISA 3.0. Let me tell you, 2 or 3 is just a mindset. DISA is remaining the same. It's just a simple upgradation for it, and for which do not refer to 2 or 3 question bank. Every question bank is important for you for the last minute preparation. Fine. So 7 mock test papers are there given by the institute. You can refer to any one of them which is relevant for you.
Okay. Okay. So I hope that today's, as we already extended our time, so I hope that today's webinar was very insightful and very relevant for tomorrow ESA aspirants. And it is my honor to have an opportunity to express my appreciation to all the dignitaries presented here. And here my sincere and extended gratitude and heartfelt thank you to our chairman, sir, and both the speakers for sparing the valuable time for this webinar. And last but not the least, I would also like to thank all the participants for patiently hearing. So thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
All the very best.
Thank you. All the best. Take care and clear your
All the
DISA
very
this time.
best for
Country
your
needs IAS
exams.
auditors.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh ji.